I'm going to send Pete a link just for the hell of it.
Uh, Peach should be awake. He's usually awake till well past midnight.
There we go. Usually he doesn't say no. So there we go. All right. Anybody that's just joining, this is a total impromptu live event. As you may or may not be aware, that James Bond is about to go get woke and go broke. We just have to sit back and take it. I am joined with my guest, David Applegate, author from Australia. David, tell us a little bit about yourself.
G'day, I'm David Applegate. I'm the author of The Boyhood of Katie, book one of The Empire of the Elves, available on Amazon and YouTube. Now, I'm not a young man. I'm in my 50s. And, I've watched pretty much every James Bond as they came out. I'm not your yesterday fan. I was 12 years old going to see, I think, Man with the Golden Gun.
That was your first one?
I think that was the first one I saw in the theater because, back then there were the only time I could see it was, midnight showings because they didn't care who came in then, I'm
trying to remember what the first one I saw in a theater was. I think it was A View to a Kill. I think.
That would be 16 years later.
The first Bond I ever saw was, let's see, I'm trying to remember.
That really cemented
For Your Eyes Only. I saw it on HBO. I wasn't old enough to go into the theater and see it, but yeah, For Your Eyes Only was my introduction to James Bond.
Nor was I, but that was the good old days.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
ID? Oh, fuck it. You got $20. You can come in. I mean, $5.
Me and my grandpa used to bond over it because we used to bond over Bond. I made a funny. No. Yeah, we used to bond over Bond because he's like, oh, you like James, but you like this, huh? He's like, well, you need to watch these older ones. And I'm like, who's Sean Connery? I don't know who Sean Connery was. James Bond was Roger Moore when I started. So I'm like, actually, wow, why was he played by somebody else?
Yeah, you would have. That's right. You would have got the Never remake.
I did see that one in the theater also. Yeah, I did see Never Say Never Again. And I liked it. I still kind of like it. It's not, the unofficial James Bond.
Yeah, because they rejected the script and forgot to return the rights back to MGM, so they could make it. Oops.
And that movie made a fortune too, didn't it? Do pretty.
Not just the first time. It made a fortune on DVD release.
Okay, I was gonna say because I knew it was a big deal having Sean Connery back in the role again, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he just kind of did it to prove to everybody that I'm still sexy. I got this.
Well, actually, he wanted to wash away the stain of a couple of other movies too.
Oh yeah, what his last one was?
No, this was before. This was after Xandar.
Okay, yeah, because let's see, it wasn't Moonraker. It was Diamonds Are Forever, which really is not very good. It's not one of the better ones.
No,
good song, but we can say that about a lot of the James Bond movies. They'll have a good song, but it's really a bad movie, or vice versa.
It's Bond by the numbers, as they called it at the time.
Yeah.
But don't forget, a lot of people actually were introduced to Bond through the bigger budget ones with Roger Moore, like Moonraker, and the Bond purists don't like those ones.
They don't like the Roger Moore movies?
No, I didn't like the Roger Moore. I can
understand that because I think Roger Moore, his was like the campier side of James Bond, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it was more punny, more about the women and the locations. It was the first time that they had adopted the Hollywood model of set before story. Locations for the sake of locations, we're in Rio now, we're in Italy now, If you're a big supervillain, why have you got multiple organizations everywhere and nobody's heard of you? It's like, yeah, the tax office has heard of you. It sort of did. But I'll do, hold on. Yeah, put it up.
I'm trying to figure out how to do this here.
Yeah, we're just sharing. when you're sharing, it's sort of you got to wait for that 30-second delay applies to yourself.
Okay.
So when you go to share something, you'll actually have that delay.
Okay.
So when you click it, you got to count. Otherwise, all they see is a flash on the screen on the other side.
All right. I'm going to get this figured out, ladies and gentlemen. Apologize for this. All right. Do we see it now?
I see it now. Lashana Lynch.
Lashana Lynch. Now, okay. So for all yous that are wondering why I'm doing this impromptu live stream, I was out in the swimming pool today, as you know, Sunday, sunny out. It was not raining for a change. Decided to have a pool day, and I was looking at my phone, reading some posts here and there, and then all of a sudden I saw this. And I'm like, this can't be real. This has got to be a joke. But then once you start seeing multiple articles coming out from different sources,
including the writer,
realize?
The thing is, the writer wrote her own article announcing this yesterday in the Daily Mail. Nobody believed it. Nobody believed it.
I mean, can you blame them though? This feels like Hollywood is trolling us at this point. Because remember the big arguments, right? We don't want James Bond to be black, and we don't want James Bond to be a female.
That was
so
2
what
Bonds
do they do?
ago.
It's a black female.
2 Bonds ago.
It hasn't even been 2 months. You haven't even allowed people. You haven't even allowed the coals to like. Go cool before you're throwing more gasoline on the fire now with this one.
And just like that, they forgot all about cultural appropriations. Hey, Jenny, why are you black?
Okay, so do you know who this actress is? Because I don't know her.
Now, apparently, she's famous, but I can't find anything on her.
Okay, isn't this the same? Is this the same lady that's in Captain Marvel?
No, she's a model. That's the thing. She's not an actress.
So she's not the one that's in Captain Marvel.
No.
Okay. All right. I was thinking this was Captain Marvel's bestie, because I think I saw somewhere that I don't. You know.
She was that's right. She was at the premiere as one of the models.
Oh. Okay.
Nobody knew why she was there, and I think they dropped the ball that they were going to announce that she was in that. But then Daniel Craig broke his then Daniel Craig broke his leg. Not ankle in Jamaica.
Okay, I'm going to read this real quick, and then we're going to talk some more. Basically, this is New York Post. Okay, James Bond fans wanting 007 to be either black or female are in for a double treat. With the movie spy about to be played by a black woman, according to a report on Sunday. British actress Lashana Lynch, 31, will be introduced as the new 007 in what is being described as a popcorn-dropping moment. What? In the franchise's 25th movie that is currently being filmed, according to the Mail on Sunday. But it's not a complete do-over, with her just taking James Bond's secret agent number after he retires from MI6, the report states. Bond himself will still be played by Daniel Craig and will still adhere to his old-fashioned macho characteristics. Oh, people write this stuff, I swear. All right, and an insider told the UK paper, Bond, of course, is sexually attracted to the new female 007 and tries his usual seduction tricks, but is baffled by when they don't work on a brilliant young black woman who basically rolls her eyes at him and has no interest in jumping into his bed, a source told the Mail. We can see where this one's going, ladies and gentlemen. The insider called it a pivotal scene, when Bond is called back from the retirement and introduced to Lynch as new 007. It's a popcorn-dropping moment. Bond is still Bond, but he's been replaced by 007 by this stunning woman, the source told the Mail. Londoner Lynch, who played the fighter pilot Maria... Yep, there we go. Londoner Lynch, who played the fighter pilot Maria Rambeau in Captain Marvel, is hoped to modernize the franchise, criticized by many as being dated and sexist. Oh, my God. This is a Bond for the modern era who will appeal to a younger generation while sticking true to what we all expect in a Bond film, the source says. There are spectacular chase sequences and fights, and Bond is still Bond, but he's having to learn to deal with the world of #MeToo. Wow, there's a lot to unpack here. Go ahead.
Okay, the first thing is the inside source is Phoebe herself. As I said, she wrote the article in the Daily Mail
Oh my
herself
god.
yesterday. And when
Oh
I
my
came across
god.
it, I was
I
going to pop
told
it up.
everybody when Phoebe Waller-Bridge was signed on for this, it was the end of the
Yeah.
Bond franchise. I'm
Now
not kidding.
I made a mistake. I'll take it back. I thought, well, I read that she played this act, that she played this, that she played this girl in a period piece drama, and I'm thinking, what? She's only 31. Okay, she's got one, two, three, four big name movies in her filmography. And you look at what she's done. She's a bit actress. This is her first leading role, and it's like, do you know how many people out there have worked their butts off, and she's Miss Diversity Hire everywhere you look.
Yeah, I'm starting to feel that too. But what really caught my attention right here was this article right here. Okay, this has to have been written by Waller-Bridge, who
That's
obviously has not figured out that this business model does not work. This is a Bond for the modern era who will appeal to a younger generation while sticking true to what we all expect in a Bond film.
but you
That's
got to
not going to
remember.
work.
No, but you got to remember something. These people are using 1984 as a handbook. They're not making movies for us. They're making movies for the kids who haven't seen a Bond film, because this will make the image in their head.
Oh
This
my
is what
god.
James Bond is. And then they'll make the next one. And as we get silenced by the rabbit fans of Lynch, who will say, you're a racist and you're a sexist, they're going to use that anger bubble. I mean, it's worked for 50 years.
That's what I don't get. Yeah, this is a 50-year-old franchise with obviously multi. I just mentioned earlier before we even started getting into this sharticle, which
Yeah.
is what I like to call him. I bonded with my grandpa over James Bond. He liked James Bond. I like James Bond. He knew Sean Connery. I knew Roger Moore. But we still watched the movies together and we enjoyed them. And we both agreed that our favorite was Goldfinger. We loved that movie. We
Now,
watched it together. You
yeah,
know?
the first one,
Yes.
the
Yeah.
poor bastard only got paid £5,000 for the first one, right?
Right.
By the time, and this was only a year or so before his death, his son had committed suicide. He was in a deep depression. They came and offered him millions of dollars to write another Bond. That's how
Oh.
popular it had become. But they had treated him like they treated Ian Fleming like garbage.
So this is definitely going to be one of those movies, and because Phoebe Waller-Bridge has already spilt the beans, and
Yeah.
this is a disturbing, alarming trend that I see in the entertainment industry, where the filmmakers are basically they're stoking the fires. They're starting their own arguments. That's what I don't understand. They didn't,
Yeah.
something like this should have probably been something that should have been revealed in the movie.
You know, you know what?
Because I know a large group of people that are probably not going to go see this because they're going to think that, okay, I'm going to sit and watch this movie, and they're going to be talking down to James Bond, putting him in his place, and complaining about the patriarchy, and preaching all this woke crap that I'm just absolutely tired of listening to. And a lot of people, probably myself included, are just not even going to bother showing up for it.
But people don't get the point of Bond. He's not the seducer. In most of the movies, he's the seduced. And he doesn't give in to their feminine charms. He doesn't give in to the Spectre bitch who comes in with her big sports car and saves him as he's running down the side of the road. Yes, he
Well, and
slept with
that's
her.
one thing, because we can kind of go back to a Casino Royale.
Yeah.
And I think we can agree that the Daniel Craig's role was kind of a soft reboot in a way, all right, because it
Yeah,
was
that's what it
kind
was
of starting
intended.
over. And that was the first one since Her Majesty's Secret Service that introduced him actually being married, and
Yeah.
spoilers, all right, losing his bride, okay, which is why he is the way he is. It's integral to his character, all right. Why
Yeah.
is he a womanizer?
But
Because he
it's
had his heart ripped from outside of him, and he doesn't want to get too close to anybody.
remember, that's actually Emergency Secret Service is the second official Bond. Casino Royale was actually meant to be the first one where he meets the gangster and meets Tracy.
That's
the movie
right.
franchise ruined it
That's right.
because they were paying Ian Fleming like peanuts for his book, and then going out and making money in the foreign box office and saying, "Oh no, you only signed a domestic deal," you know.
But
So
the point that I was getting at with that though
Yeah.
is they basically they introduced or they explained why he is the way he is, and that ought to be enough apology for his behavior.
Also, it should be. This is yet another film that's franchise that has shat on the original source material and rewritten the character that was made popular. But people could relate to the tragedy of Bond. They could relate to him being immune to, every man's dream is, somebody beautiful coming up to them, right? He was a bit of a wish fulfillment character, but it was never taken as a serious movie. The villains were over the top. The storylines weren't relevant to any headline of the day. You know?
I mean, one of the things that I say on my channel over and over, every time they announce these woke reboots, which is kind of what this is kind of looking like it's going to be, is who is this audience made for? Because, again, right here, written in the article, as you can tell, it was written by Phoebe Waller-Bridge herself, okay? Appeal to a younger generation while sticking true to what we all expect. The younger generation that they're trying to appeal to has all of these things that they want, okay? They have the Fast and the Furious franchise, okay? They have Harry Potter. They have, it's not like there's any lack of franchises. There's plenty of spy movies. You got the Bourne movies. I mean, you don't need this. You don't need to do this. So who is this movie for? That's what I don't understand. What do they really think that there's a lot of money in these young people that want this kind of thing? I mean, do they think that you're basically I don't understand why Hollywood thinks that if you're old, your money's no good anymore. That's what I don't understand.
Because the target demographics is 24 to 54, the highest spending range, of which 80% is spent by women. Because so many men out there are just giving up hope. That's the problem. So many men out there have given up hope. They've come out of high school being told that you're born a rapist, you're a misogynist, you're a racist. They're walking around the streets with their heads down. Yeah. You listen to some of the British guys who are speaking out, and they ask, "What does your mates think?" "Oh, my friends don't want to talk to me because I don't share their because I'm not woke, because I won't go out with a black girl, because I or that I don't go to get drunk and fall down every night." That's the problem. We're in a circle where we still got our heads about on our shoulders.
Yeah,
we're not buying into the Hollywood model where we have.
I don't know about you, but when I was in high school, my biggest fear was rejection. Now it's like fear of being, hashtagged or labeled or something.
Yeah. I went for I was rejected in high school, but then in university, I was somewhat popular. But then after university, when I didn't land a big, high-paying job, I wasn't popular. And after my second wife left me, I said, that's it. I am sick and tired of being told what a man is, okay?
Especially when it's not a man telling you what a man's supposed to be.
Exactly.
It's Phoebe Waller-Bridge.
Phoebe Waller-Bridge.
I don't watch Fleabag. I don't know anything about it. I don't care to. All I know is that Phoebe Waller-Bridge is Leet L337, and that's enough for me. That's enough right there to just completely shut me off to anything that she has to say or anything that she's doing. Now, I was told that she was brought in to do treatments on the script. It sounds like she's making the whole damn movie.
No, well, that's the thing. 2 months ago, she was announced as the replacement, as a fill-in writer. Then a week after, she was the replacement writer. Then she was the lead writer. And this is how they take over. You get one at the top And as soon as they get in a position of power to hire, boom, they start bringing in all their mates.
Oh my God. It's like a cancer. This
Yeah.
SJW nonsense, it's a cancer. And I was out in the pool, was out there with my dad. All right. And my mom agrees with me too. It's like they've taken away literally everything that we ever liked. And they're just systematically rotting
And
everything away. All of it.
and the,
Just absolutely everything.
and they
Nothing
do it.
safe.
They do it because they hate the fact that we were more successful than them in the past. We
Right.
had
This
the
is like a
success.
revenge piece. There's nothing about this article right here that spells success. There's nothing
No,
about this designed to make anybody, even though they've written it in that direction,
it
there's
doesn't
nothing
even make
designed about this to
particularly
even
good.
make any money. You know,
It
they're
doesn't
not
even.
even curious. They don't even want to make money. The cinema is failing. You were talking about that last night in your live stream. These movies, all these franchises are tanking. People are just not going to the movies anymore. They're tired of this crap. Yeah.
Terminator is no longer in the top 25 franchises. Star Wars is no longer the number one franchise. As I said,
That's the one that shocks me the most of Star Wars, because like the Terminator, I knew it's been a downhill, slow downhill battle ever since T3, which was the last official Star Wars Terminator movie that I saw in a movie theater. Because my biggest problem with T3, it wasn't so much that it wasn't as somewhat satisfying, entertaining action movie. It's just the fact that literally the entire story and script negates all of the everything that happens to the heroes in the first two movies. It makes everything that they do seem completely meaningless.
But if you look at the top franchises, over half of them are Japanese, over half of them are Shogun pieces aimed at basically aimed at 14 to 18 older teens, 14 to 18-year-olds. And they're number one. So could you imagine in America right now if a entrepreneurial group got together and said, right, we're not aiming to make the blockbuster movie, we're aiming to make a blockbuster series. Like, look at Fast and the Furious.
Right. Those things are ridiculous, and then they're popular overseas as well.
And they're rising the ranks of franchises. They have beaten some older, much more established franchises. But there are toy franchises doing better than Terminator. The video games now are making more money than most movies.
Now, obviously, you're more of an anime expert than I am, because it's not really.
I wouldn't call myself an expert. I'm a fan.
You're a fan, okay, which is already more of an expert than me, because I past Alita, I don't really know anything, anime. Would you say that kids nowadays have far more easier access to that sort of thing than they did when, say, you and I were younger?
Absolutely, because the only way I saw it was either once a week they'd show a random episode on.
And the reason that you like anime is because those are good stories, correct?
They are good stories. They're well-told stories, and they are artistic in their presentation of those stories.
Why do they think that kids would want James Bond when they have access to all of that? That's why I'm asking, who is this aimed for? What
the thing is,
what is this?
Okay, now when I did the franchises yesterday, there was one I missed out because they don't include the R-rated. Now the Japanese R-rated James Bond is a huge franchise. I forget his name because it's a Japanese film. I think there's like 50 or 60 episodes. Something Go-Go, I think. And it's like 50 episodes. It's never been officially translated to English that I know of, but somebody will correct me or later on. But it's actually it's more successful than James Bond. So, like you said, who's that audience? Who's this audience?
So they're not going to be able to sell this in the Chinese market either, because they don't like the Baizu. I know that much. All right, I follow enough pop culture to know that they hate this kind of stuff. This SJW pandering. They think it's because it's stupid. I agree with them. This is very much a Western problem that should not even exist.
But you know what the sick thing is? Some of these films are funded by the Chinese.
Most of them are, I think, at this point.
Well, I say I only say most because we can't prove beyond a reasonable doubt that all the money flushing into, because I reckon there's a few Europeans and there's that Ukrainian billionaire has been who funded Harvey Weinstein. So, you know, it's not one, but the Chinese mainstream don't like black replacements. They don't, if they get, they like their characters to be consistent. If James Bond's a white guy, it has to be a white guy.
Right. And as Jeff has said in a lot of his live streams too, he basically alluded to the fact that even though the James Bond franchise has been played by multiple different people, and it's been kind of softly rebooted, it still alludes to maybe it's the same character. It's just, different eras, different times, but coming from the same stories that were written a long time ago. Yeah.
Until Casino Royale, it was the same character. It was alluded to twice, once in Thunderball, I think, where they referred to a previous Bond. I'm not sure if it was Thunderball or Golden Gun, where they referred to a previous operation. You know, when they had the two sheriffs from two different movies.
Yeah.
They brought back characters from different movies.
That's right. And Judi Dench and yeah.
And it was the first signs that James Bond was cracking was Judi Dench as M. That was, we're modernizing Bond. We're going to have Judi Dench as M.
And like, I didn't think nothing of it at the time because I thought she was pretty good as M. I enjoyed the way that she used to yell at him. You know, she kind of had that old 80s the old 80s action movies always had the angry chief that's always yelling, you used to be a pretty good cop, but now you're breaking cars. They always, and she kind of gave me that sort of, I didn't always get that from some of the previous versions of him, but I thought she made that work.
But the two things that broke it is the first time when she referred to him as, you're not even a 00 yet. And it's like, what?
You're rebooting. And Casino Royale. Okay, I'm trying to think back to Casino Royale.
Yeah, see, that broke it there for Judi Dench. It's like, hold on, how can they have chemistry if he's a junior agent?
I got to admit that Daniel Craig is not probably my favorite James Bond, that we've had so far, but I've always at least got some entertainment out of the James Bond movies. Like, I wouldn't bat an eye at going and buying a ticket to go see a James Bond movie. And I always make it a point to watch it at some point whenever I get a chance. And I really enjoyed Skyfall. I went and saw that at the theater, and I actually own that one on Blu-ray. And Spectre had a really good opening. Like, I loved the whole Mexico City sequence, was just amazing. And then after that, there's this whole other kind of like very mediocre movie. Yeah, it was very dull. It really drags. It's like you're feeling it drag on that one, but it's still, at least that opening sequence was entertaining enough to where, had I seen it in a theater, I probably wouldn't have been angry about spending money to see that.
A 2-minute establishing shot of a guy whispering in the ear is like, what the heck is that?
Yeah.
Even, I get accused in my writing of embellishing a bit, but that was beyond the pale. That was definitely, we got to make this a 2-hour runtime. How can we do it?
Yeah, James Bond movies should never be associated with boredom. They should never be slow. They should always be paced good. And I was really excited about, Christoph Waltz being a villain. He's a fantastic actor. I love the guy.
And they gave us
it's a very disappointing villain.
A photograph. It's a backstory and a villain monologue at the end.
Yeah, it got really by the numbers, didn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, but the only other thing that broke M for me, other than the fact that was then in Skyfall. Oh, I know you. I've known you your whole life, and it's like, my God, that's the sort of stuff you have at the beginning, not at the end.
Yeah. Basic writing, ladies and gentlemen. Basic writing.
The story, basic writing. The introduction comes first.
Yeah, once upon a time, not so. I'm gonna take.
Once upon a time, there was an orphan named James Bond who was taken in by an officer of MI6, who, upon his death, made James Bond introduced James Bond to the service, but he was only a courier. He goes to Casino Royale to deliver the money, gets caught up in the game, and boom, he meets Tracy, the daughter of a gangster, gets married. Bang! We've had the origin story. No soft reboots. Just continue on. There are There are 19 James Bond novels in the official series. None of them have been made movies.
My dad brought up an interesting point too. We're talking about Ian Fleming in the books, okay? And there was an era, ladies and gentlemen, when people used to read books where there were series of books that were written aimed directly at male audiences. They were male action fantasy books, which I believe is where the Mac Bolan books came from and the James Bond series. So these were written specifically designed for male audiences.
And particularly in the post-war era for those who never saw service.
Correct.
Like, and we don't, and if we want to go to another successful franchise, the Commando comics.
Yes. Yeah. Those
3,559 issues later. That's what's Batman? 439. It's like this makes Batman look like a cheap dime store novel, you know?
So it's like, we get accused of being anti-female and anti-feminism, but the thing is men are not allowed, like you mentioned it earlier, men are not allowed to be men anymore. Everything you do that is masculine is considered to be toxic.
Because it upsets the toxic feminists who cannot stand the fact that fate dealt them what they consider a lesser hand.
And Ethan Van Sciver touched on this too. It's like you're not allowed to have, I'm depressed that you're not allowed to have heroes anymore. And I got into this fight when The Last Jedi came out. I says, so you're telling me that the action heroes that I grew up with, my era would have been Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, Bruce Willis, Chuck Norris, okay, Harrison Ford, absolutely, all those guys. Those were the role models. Those were the guys you're like, wow, he's really cool. Way before me would have been John Wayne, okay, and maybe Gregory Peck. I mean, it just you know what I'm saying?
But Sylvester Stallone spans generations with the early Rocky movies.
Absolutely.
And you've got Clint Eastwood, who spans...
Absolutely. And Clint Eastwood's before my time, but I used to watch those movies too. They were always readily available. And Clint Eastwood was like the coolest cowboy I'd ever seen. And it's like, it's not so much about, what my role model ought to be. It's when you're a kid and you're impressed by somebody. For me, that was definitely Arnold Schwarzenegger in The Terminator. First time I saw him, even though he was the bad guy, just seeing him walk onto that set, pulling that gun, and the way he walked and the way he moved, it was so effing cool.
He was impressive. He didn't flinch. He was and the thing is,
perfect machine. Yeah.
He sold you that he was the Terminator. He sold you that role.
Yes.
If he turned around and winked at the audience, that would have been the breaking moment. But he never did. When he turned around, you got the view of him scanning the room.
In fact, technically, he never even tells a joke in the entire movie. Everything that he says is played for straights. Now, the way that the scene is the way the scene is directed plays it as a joke, but he's still dead serious in all of his programmed responses.
Yeah, he is taking everything they say to him literally, and he's literally responding as a machine would. He would literally translate the English and give it the shortest possible answer. You'll close. That's it. It was played for laughs, but that is...
I'll be back. I mean,
that's right.
He comes right back. I mean, he wasn't kidding anybody. Yeah.
See, my original background was in computer programming. I know machine learning. I couldn't write a machine learning code. Look, there aren't many people do. Most people who work in machine learning, they have a machine that can learn, and they just teach it stuff.
Yeah.
But that's what Schwarzenegger is, and kudos to James Cameron for that. I'll do the waist up nudity and I'll insinuate that he's walking around fully naked, but I'll play it, as in he just doesn't have a clue. He doesn't really know humanity. He's a total blank. Now, here's the thing. I was going to do this the other day, but I'll do it now. A lot of people my age, when we'd see a movie, there'd be the movie comic, a book, and that would be it, right?
Yeah.
And there might be 2 or 3 sequels. Now, there was a lot of Terminator books, and that was unusual. And we thought Terminator would really take off as a series. And when Terminator 2 came out, everybody was excited. No, I haven't seen that much excitement since Empire Strikes Back was announced.
Oh yeah, my mom and I went. Well, my mom actually introduced me to Terminator because I was actually too, I was one of those kids that was allowed to watch R-rated movies. That was fine, as long as mom, screened them first. That was the rule. I need to screen them first, and if I say it's okay, you can watch it. You can watch it. So that was one of the ones that she actually was extremely excited to tell me about. She's like, I think you're going to love this movie, and she was absolutely right. I loved absolutely every second of it. So. When she took me to see Terminator 2 Judgment Day, yeah, that was a big deal. And I did not expect that movie to be good at all. Because usually sequels were kind of rare back then. So when they came out, it's just kind of like, oh, more of the same. And that one actually builds on the story that came before it. It takes everything steps further, which is what most sequels don't do. A lot of them want to play it safe and just kind of give you more of the same beats and do the same things. And Terminator 2 completely strayed away from the formula. And I think I respect the movie more now as an adult for that reason alone, seeing as many sequels as I've had to sit through in the last, 30, 40 years here.
Now, not since Star Trek had a series started off with the idea that, oh yeah, we're going to actually build on the past. It was usually I just can't think of one at the moment, but you sort of can't. You sort of start forgetting the bad ones you've seen. You ever get that?
Most sequels are kind of like, some of them are good. A lot of them are more the same. None of them ever really like a lot. I would say most of them don't take the story forward very far. I thought one of the few that come to mind is, Predator 2 wasn't very good, but you think of The Godfather Part 2, which definitely took that story forward. And then
and then you talk to somebody about Godfather 3 and they grab you by the throat and say, don't you ever talk about that.
We don't speak of that movie here.
Capiche?
But yeah, that Godfather 2 is just riveting. I mean, and that one is impressive too, because I mean, you have a sequel and a prequel all in the same movie.
Yeah.
And it doesn't lose its pace, and at no point do you ever not know what's going on.
Now, I've read the book. And I can tell you, the book is gorier, but the book has 9 pages of describe. The book tends to embellish too much. The wedding scene where the ladies are talking at a table, that went for 9 pages. I flipped a few.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. I'm one of the dorks that read the novelizations of the prequels when they came out, and I absolutely adored the novelization of The Phantom Menace, so I was really excited to get the novelization for Attack of the Clones. Yeah. And that book is boring. So boring. Such a boring, disappointing book. Oh my God.
Now, as a world builder myself, right, I can appreciate what George was trying to do, but you can't do it with a movie. You could do it with a series. That's where anime goes for the win. George,
yeah, that's good that you brought that up too, because it's one thing. People that are watching now that have come to my channel recently over Alita Battle Angel. One of my biggest the things that I enjoyed about that movie so much was the world building that was in there. Everything seemed to make sense. All of the characters, the way they interacted with each other, seemed to make sense. It felt very lived in, which is what you would want from a world.
Now, the reason why the media doesn't like it is first and foremost, it's a Fox movie. And you're not going to get a Fox movie well promoted on CNN.
Yeah, that's true.
Second, the heroine is a discard of the elites who look and rule from above. What do the media do? Look down upon us and rule unelected from above.
Oh, okay. I didn't even put that together until you just now mentioned that. Yeah.
They did not like the allegories in the movie because they saw themselves.
Is okay. Yep, that's all right. That makes more sense now. Now I get why that movie is has been, technically checks all the check boxes that it should. You have your strong female lead, you have your diverse cast, all of those
But the
check
thing
boxes
is,
are in place. So
it was written that way. It was written that way. It wasn't rewritten.
right.
There was
It
the
did, from
original
what I
source
understand,
material.
I do actually have the manga. They're very close. They're
Yeah,
extremely close. Like almost like right on the pages.
yeah. And if you know that and if you know anything about the history of the movie, it was Rodriguez. It intended to do all three, but then when the Disney announcement came, he said to Fox, "We're budgeted. Are we going to finish this?" They said yes. Uh, okay, and they never asked and never brought up sequels since because I think they knew the writing on the wall as soon as they heard Disney had taken
And
over.
I'm glad you brought that up because I'm probably going to make another video on this anyway. But I've never seen a fandom. I mean, we're living in an age now where it's especially since like
Yeah.
2014 and up, fandoms are always under attack. I've never seen a fandom more attacked than the people that like Alita Battle Angel, and that's a movie that came out this year.
Okay, now, and it's a successful
It's
movie.
technically a successful movie, and the media would like you to think that it's some kind of a flop, which it's not. Okay, it was not a flop. It had an extended release overseas, which is why the Blu-ray came out later than Captain Marvel did, even though
And it broke, and it also broke a mold. Normally, if a movie's successful in Japan, it's not so successful in China because of the enmity between the two cultures. But when they can actually agree on something, look how successful it was.
that's another bullet point that I'm glad you brought that up. That's Alita Battle Angel is also a movie that's perfect for Chinese audiences. There's nothing in there that would be considered,
Pandas,
yeah,
pandering. Yeah, they
yeah.
don't like pandering or any sign of weakness.
They don't like the Baizu. They don't like the SJW politics. There's none of that in there. That movie's perfectly acceptable for any overseas audience. Absolutely.
And it also doesn't bring up any Chinese politics, which means it
No.
goes straight through the censors. Is there anything? Is there any mention of China in it? No. Okay, it goes to the standard civilian censor.
Nope. And there's no obnoxious jabs at presidents or any of that kind of stuff, or even
No.
alluding to such a thing.
It says it was a past war and it was between factions on Mars and had nothing to do with Earth.
It's an extremely interesting world, and I'm still reading through the first book, and I'm going to get into the other books. But all these fans want, David, is they just want another movie made in their franchise. They want to see this thing to completion. Yeah, because the first movie does. That's probably my only main gripe is it abruptly ends. It's like, oh man, it's like this was like the best setup movie I've ever seen. I want more, and I want it right now.
Yeah, because it's technically an anime, which means it's a long story.
So it's done in that format. It's done. It's basically plays out like anime. There's a director that actually understood the material and respected its fans.
And he wasn't a white guy. He wasn't a Japanese guy. He wasn't,
and he didn't make a big deal out of those things either.
No, Rodriguez. When I can't remember which. I think it was Mariachi. Remember Mariachi? You would have been young when it came out. I think it was.
Oh yeah, I remember Mariachi. Yeah,
he made that film for $1 million as his entrance to film school.
Wow, that was his demo reel, basically.
Well, it started as a demo reel and it turned into a full-blown movie from funded by Sundance.
It's a good movie. It really is. Yeah. And actually, I saw it backwards. I actually saw Desperado first, and I went and saw Desperado thinking it was a Tarantino movie, and then I found out it wasn't. Yeah, but I liked it anyway. And then they said, "Oh, well, that's a sequel to El Mariachi." I'm like, "Well, I guess I need to watch that too," and I did. Yeah, I loved it.
But the sequel shat on the source material and changed.
Oh
and,
yeah.
And Banderas.
Once Upon a Time in Mexico. Yeah. Is that the one you're talking about? Yeah,
that's another one. That's bad sequel. Move on.
But you know what? Most of us can forgive a bad sequel, as long as the director is not, blaming the fans for the movie's success. We can get past a bad movie. I could get past that The Last Jedi was a bad movie, had not, everybody constantly telling us that we're wrong for not liking it.
Rodriguez is one of those guys you can actually respect as a director. He sits down and says,
I do,
actually. You know what? I made the movie that I wanted to make. My fans sort of liked it. They sort of didn't. I'm sorry. I'll do better next time. Well, he doesn't say I'll do better, but he says he gives a soft apology, but he accepts the work was his.
We got Woody in the chat. This is somebody that just joined my channel, and he's one of the guys that joined recently from my last Alita video, which is doing fantastic. I'm shocked at how many views I've got, but yeah, he just joined. So thanks for joining us, Woody. And he basically said that Sin City is amazing, and I agree. That's another one that I like. That's based on comics that I like its style.
That's the same guy who did 300. Frank Miller? Is it
Frank Miller wrote it, and Robert Rodriguez directed it, I believe.
Yeah. But Miller also wrote the original source material.
Yes. And I heard he can be either really good or really crazy. It just depends on what day of the week it is, from what I've been told.
We're not getting the third 300 movie, which is a disappointment.
I never saw the second 300 movie. I didn't.
It was a disappointment.
I didn't really think there was a reason to see a second one because I like the way that the first one ended. That's something I'd like to bring up. Sometimes a movie shouldn't get a sequel because you basically, unless you're going to, like I said, like we were talking about, sequels should build on the original rather than just hit all the same beats. Because if you're going to make a sequel to something that doesn't need a sequel, if you're going to undo all of the struggles of your protagonist in the first movie, then you're ruining the first one if you want to follow it in a franchise form. Perfect example, Jaws. I absolutely adore Jaws. I hate all of its sequels.
Yeah. You want a series that shat its bed and destroyed its fandom? Game of Thrones.
Oh yeah, okay. Thankfully, I didn't get involved in the Game of Thrones. I had all of my friends say, "Oh, why don't you watch Game of Thrones?" I'm like, I don't want to watch Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones channels are disappearing like lemmings over the cliff.
Yep, everybody's giving up on that one. Yeah, that's and I'm glad. I'm kind of glad in a way. I don't really like to see any kind of a franchise ever fail, but I'm glad that is where it's at because all of my friends will finally stop telling me to watch that show.
And the thing is,
because if they do, I'll be like, "Oh, you mean that show that everybody hates right now?" Nah, no thanks.
That show that never made the top 25 franchises. And that everybody talks about, but hardly anybody watched in the last 2 seasons.
Okay, here's a good question for you. Which show got talked about more, Game of Thrones or Breaking Bad? Because that's the other one that everybody told me, "Oh, you got to watch Breaking Bad. You got to see it, man. You got to see it." I do like Breaking Bad, by the way.
Yeah, I did.
I watched it at my own.
I gave in, and I binge watched the first 3 seasons, and then I watched it onwards. And I thought, yeah, you got to put up with a lot to get to the good parts, but it's worth it.
Yeah.
Now, as a writer, I can understand why he does the beats because my writing is similar to Breaking Bad in that I've got a lot. I think maybe too much, some people say, but I've got a lot of world building. And Breaking Bad, all those silent moments, they're that's his psychotic break. Okay. That's his break from that's why he broke. We're getting the reason why he breaks bad. He's broken. His wife broke him.
Right. And the big reveal basically is the fact that, we're always talking about especially James Bond, but James Bond has really famously meme-worthy generic villains. Okay. And your movie is only as good as your villain. And I think one of the best villains in the Bond franchise is probably the one from Skyfall. Blofeld? Okay. I was going to say Skyfall because I like the villains where you understand their motivation and you get why they are the way they are. Like to the point to where you almost feel sorry for them. Those are the more scarier villains. And basically Breaking Bad is the creation of a villain, of a super villain. He becomes a super villain. Everybody in his life, their lives are destroyed because of his actions.
Yeah, Bond's totally oblivious to the fallout, which actually gave the plot to MI6, was it, or Mission Impossible 6 Fallout?
Yeah, Mission Impossible 6 Fallout. Yeah.
yeah, that everything Ethan's done to this point has ruined so many people's lives that they get together to take their revenge on him, which is basically the Legion of Doom plot from
That's
DC
right, it is.
Comics. It's the Legion
Woody
of
says he
Doom.
hates TV, but Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, The Sopranos are amazing. I agree. I watch
Saul
all
is
of those shows
brilliant.
as well. Those shows
Yeah.
are all brilliant.
So
Better Call Saul has been on hiatus far too long. That what
that's
frustrates me the most about that show is that I literally have to go back and rewatch every season before a new one so I can
okay.
remember what's going on.
Two mistakes. The Soprano ending was rushed. That was screwed by the studio. They said, "Oh, we're not giving you that extra season that you wanted to finish it." So they had to finish it in 3 episodes.
One of those. Okay.
Yeah, screwed by the studio.
I hate it
Oh
when they do that.
no, because I mentioned it yesterday. How syndication works. If you're syndicating something, right, and it's still on the air, you've got to pay so many. You've got to pay royalties ongoing until it's off until the show ends. That's how the guy. That's how Friends made so much money. You know, Jennifer Aniston made millions of dollars because that show went on and on and on and on, and it was being shown in other countries. So she was. But if they do the show, have at least 3 seasons, and syndicate it, they don't have to pay back royalties. It's really weird. You know,
That's
there's
so
lawyers.
that's what happened to Terminator Sarah Connor Chronicles, which I thought was a fantastic show. At least the
Yep.
first season. The second season really went off the rails badly. I didn't think it was very good, but all TV shows, I mean, all TV shows have at least one season that's kind of eh. You know what I mean? Or at least a couple episodes that are kind of eh. There's no such thing as perfection. I mean, I think the closest thing probably would be Breaking Bad, but you know,
The thing
Breaking
is,
Bad had one episode written by Ryan Johnson, just saying.
yeah, but written, no, directed.
That's right, he directed it. Yeah.
Yeah. But you look at how many directors they had, and Vince basically said uh, every director who came in was told, "You're directing what I've written."
Oh God, what he said. So the Sopranos, Alan Taylor, he made Thor 2 and Terminator Genesis. Oh
Yeah.
God, shall we talk about Terminator Genesis? Do we want to
Yes.
go down this rabbit hole? Yeah, what the hell?
Yeah, yeah,
This is
why?
an
What the hell?
impromptu live stream. We're having a good time, right, guys? Let's
Well,
talk about Terminator Genesis.
yeah, we're basically
Go ahead, you go first, and then I'll give my two
Okay.
pieces.
When I first heard of it, right, Joe Courtney was still popular. Okay, there was no Joe Courtney hadn't become a meme yet.
And what is he popular from?
Who knows now?
Okay, I don't because I never heard of him before Terminator, but go ahead.
But I just no. That's the thing. Joe Courtney, he was built up. They had shown some pretty good scenes of him as John Connor. You know, and then instead of portraying, they sort of like they built him up to be this action hero. And what do we get? A lost kid who's dragged around without a clue, who's not even he's not the command of.
Yeah, didn't he play?
He's
He
not
played
the
Reese
hero.
actually. Yeah, he played
Yeah.
Reese. Yeah, Jai Courtney was Reese,
Yeah.
which
And it's
I
like they misled us.
he was no replacement for Michael Biehn, and neither was Anton Yelchin. And actually, Anton Yelchin is actually a fantastic actor, but his portrayal of Reese was probably better than Jai Courtney's. I'll say that much, but it still wasn't quite Michael Biehn. You know, you can't. There's certain actors you can't divorce them from the actors that played them because that was your first introduction to them. It's kind of like when they made Soilo and they tried to pass off, you know, Orville Redenbacher or Aaron Oldenbrick or whatever the hell his name was as Han Solo. It was insulting to Star Wars fans. It's like, this is a character that we associate with Harrison Ford. You can't just bring some other jackass in to play him.
And like the new Bond, it's not written for the fans, it's written for the people who haven't seen it before, so they get the impression that Bond's a black woman. So they get the impression that Solo's this young guy. So they get the impression that C-3PO is a gay robot that has sex with everybody.
I feel like these SJWs that are making movies right now, I feel like what it is, it's like they see a pet turtle, all right, and they thought, oh, your pet turtle's so cool, and they take your pet turtle home and they dissect it to figure out what makes it work, and they don't understand what makes it work, so they just come up with some Frankenstein's monster mess of what they think you might like or what you ought to like.
What they forget is we need the filler. Could you imagine Breaking Bad without Sylar berating him all the time?
No.
That's a yeah.
One of the things that made Breaking Bad so interesting to me, and also better, if this carries over in Better Call Saul, is the fact that Breaking Bad is one of those shows that the filler is just as interesting as the climax. Like they build tension so well that you're hanging on to, in something as insignificant like a click of a pen could be the difference between a life or death situation later, and you know what they're getting at. They're really good at building tension on that show.
Saul is when Saul's up to no good because he is flicking that pen. And that you can't do in a movie. It takes a series to establish those habits.
Right. That's why the Next Generation movies never worked, because the formula that they had going for that show didn't translate into a 2-hour movie.
No, because it needed those follow-on all those previous episodes. And the Generations movies were too far apart from the They tried to take a thinking man's trek and turn it into an action series.
But anyways, back to Genesis. Sorry, we got on a long tangent there. I feel like I'm doing a Pete episode.
But that's what Genesis is.
Genesis is like it's a movie. It absolutely, it goes on tangents, and it never comes back to what its original point was. Never.
And its original point was Kyle Reese becoming Kyle Reese. That was meant to be the point, but it didn't, because they decided to make it a reboot. And it's like, what? I'm halfway through the movie and I suddenly realized, wait a minute, they're rebooting the series now in the sequel? And then they're going to... But the only thing I got away from that movie, right, is how you could defeat Skynet.
Turn off your cell phone?
Yep.
It's Skynet. It's Skynet is Facebook, ladies and gentlemen. Facebook is Skynet.
Yeah, no, but that's what it is. All the Terminators are Skynet. They know everything. They know how to build a time machine. They know how to build weapons.
And that's an aspect that I'll admit that if I was a big Hollywood producer with a voice like this, right? And somebody came in and they pitched, this idea of Skynet being a conglomeration of social media and computer programs, is something that was actually kind of interesting. They could have done something cool with this. But my biggest problem with the entire Terminator franchise is the fact that it's a very, very extremely confined world. All right. You're constantly following this one family. And they have literally run out of things that they can do with this one family. Without this one family, this world does not exist.
It's like the Skywalker saga. Star Wars painted itself into a box of being X-Wings, TIE fighters.
They've done it exactly the same way. You could have done, that's what I really liked about Rogue One, is the fact that you were going outside of the original story. Okay. And you were showing another side of the universe. And that was what I was hoping that most of Disney Star Wars was going to be, at least the Star Wars story portion of it. I thought they were going to constantly show things from different angles,
Yeah, the anthology was the thing that actually brought fans and saying, okay, you're going to do another trilogy. Yeah. But what's these other movies? And then when people didn't like Solo, they said, okay, we'll yank Mandalorians. And they said, no.
But they liked Rogue One. Now, the first time I heard Rogue One, I thought, well, this is not going to be good at all. But then when I watched it, I'm like, oh, actually, I like this. This is a side of Star Wars that I've never seen before. I didn't really care for the characters, but I like the fact that I was glad that it was successful, because I thought, well, this opens up windows of opportunity that we can explore a universe that we haven't seen. And they just botched it so bad with Solo, man. Oh my God. But no, that's our fault. We're the ones that get punished for it. So
yeah, we get the movies we wanted taken off us because we didn't like the movies they wanted.
Right. They never once thought that, okay, let's do a Han Solo prequel. I'm like, wait a minute. I thought you guys, everybody shat all over the prequels. They hated the prequels. So now that we own the Star Wars license, let's go ahead and make more prequels. Wait, what? Really? That's what you want to do? You want to make more prequels? And also, I look at it this way too. I don't know if it's ever gets brought up in conversations, but the fact that Star Wars cinematically is all over the place ever since Disney took over. Okay, it's like you've got the Force Awakens, then you have Rogue One, then you have Solo, a Star Wars story. To casuals that don't know the Star Wars universe, there's absolutely nothing for them to enjoy there because everything is so out of place that they literally have to sit down and look at a roadmap to figure out what belongs where.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what Disney was banking on the audience buying up the source material to understand the movies. And I think Jeff said it. Did Jeff or even Van Sciver said it? I'm not doing homework. I'm not paying to watch a movie to do and then to have to do homework, which I have to buy to understand the movie.
So Woody said, I never saw Solo. Everyone told me I would hate it. Basically, what I can tell you about Solo, Woody, is that it's a very boring film. And that's something that should never be associated with Star Wars. Like, within the fandom menace here, we complain about The Last Jedi a lot, but I'm not going to say that this is the only credit I'll give The Last Jedi. It's not necessarily an overall boring film. All right. It's a bad film, but boredom is not something I associate with it. Solo is very safe and boring to the point to where it almost puts you in a coma. In fact, in some ways, Solo almost insults me more than the Last Jedi.
They cut away from the good scenes straight away. They're building up to the height.
And when you watch it, you can tell in spots where it started off one thing and then it was repurposed and repackaged as something different. The closest thing I can compare it to is the Justice League.
Yeah.
They're very similar. Yeah.
Yeah. The Justice League. Zack Snyder had half the film. Two other directors did parts of the film, and then two editors chopped it together. Nobody had worked together before. They were working on Zack Snyder's notes. Zack Snyder's always been an anti-person. He's been an anti-person forever. He doesn't understand people, but he understands how to manipulate people. And
kind of a bully. Yeah.
Yeah, he is. But he's also a one-trick pony.
Yes, yeah, I praised him for we liked the 300, and I also his remake of Dawn of the Dead was not terrible. It's not as good as the original. Nothing ever will be because that is the best zombie movie ever made. But after his remake did not offend me because he was at least trying to do something different with it. And I always say that if you're going to remake a movie, try to make it different from the original. Don't just do the same beats, hit all the same beats, and do all the same thing. That's not interesting at all. Okay.
And don't rewrite.
And I liked the 300, and I liked the Watchmen. Yeah. Now, based on the success of the Watchmen, was why they handed him the keys to the DC franchise. And the problem is he wanted to make all of those characters like the Watchmen. That doesn't work. No, the Watchmen is a unique case. Batman and Superman are not characters from the Watchmen, but when you watch a Zack Snyder movie, you swear they're the same characters. Yeah, they're just wearing different costumes.
Yeah, because the reason why the Watchmen work is because Zack Snyder is the anti-person. He doesn't like people.
Right. He doesn't understand charisma or superheroes. He doesn't like looking at
He's a beta.
He doesn't get it. He doesn't get it. He's definitely a very negative. He is the supervillain. I agree. I think he's the secret supervillain that DC has had all along. Is Zack Snyder?
Yeah. And the thing is, I feel sorry for Ben Affleck because, I was on board with him being Batman because I thought Batman's one of those characters who's been played by so many different people that you don't have to like the actor, as long as they're Batman. I'm
actually glad that we are talking about DC because it kind of goes back to what we keep talking about. Again, these are people that
don't understand. Yeah,
they don't understand the source. They don't understand the source material. They don't get it. Like Zack Snyder, 150% does not understand how superheroes work. Okay, he doesn't understand that. He doesn't understand the tonal differences between Superman and Batman are completely polar opposites of each other. And all right. In fact, his movie, BVS made Superman look like a complete a-hole.
Yeah. And the thing is, in Batman v Superman, that was the comic. It was a sort of DC one-shot reboot. It wasn't a canon book. It later became canon because DC was in a rush to try and stitch up its reputation because, as I said yesterday, look how far DC's fallen. DC is only set. Marvel is now 32, and Marvel's income since 55 is 32 billion. DC's income since 53 is 7 billion.
Oh my God, that much of a divide. Wow.
That's 20 years. That's 20 films in 10 years has put a huge divide between the two.
Yeah, and that's a good point because even the Marvel movies that you don't like as well, they still fit in that universe, and they're still not. When you go see one of those movies, you're not going to be 100% disappointed. Now, I can't speak for Captain Marvel because I haven't seen it, and I have no desire to see that. The only way I'll sit through that is if we do a watch party. I need an adult supervising me when I watch that because I might choke to death.
Yeah. The thing that everybody point out in Captain Marvel, there's no stakes. Who's the villain? Who's the villain?
The patriarchy is the villain.
Yeah, who can take her down? When we were watching the original Superman 2,
I put my money on Alita. I'm pretty sure Alita could take her out.
Yeah. When we were watching Superman 2, at first you think, oh, nobody could take out Superman. And then Lex Luthor realized he's going to have I just got to find his weakness, you know? And he had
that's
one.
what a supervillain does. Yeah, he tries to find the weakness and then go from there. Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas Captain Marvel, now I'm talking about the male original Captain Marvel, he had all sorts of villains that he had to contend with. And he needed help and his powers were magical, They didn't come from, they rewrote the whole origin story of Captain Marvel to basically say, oh yes, Marvel is a
I can't speak for everyone, but I think Captain Marvel would have fared a lot better. All right, we could have gotten away from the comic books and ignored the fact that Captain Marvel's basically what has tanked the Diamond Comics and comic industry as a whole. But I think the audiences and people like you and me would have divorced ourselves from that fact had they just presented her as a fun character, an interesting heroine. Had it been played by somebody like Katie Sackhoff or what's the one from Edge of Tomorrow? Emily Blunt, like somebody that was like likable, and not,
somebody
they
older
made the enemy the patriarchy, but this is obviously an SJW driven narrative, so that's why people don't like it.
But it did well because girls 16 to 26 like wish fulfillment characters. They like Hermione, which is what made Harry Potter famous. Wasn't Harry Potter. It was all these teenage girls wanting to be Hermione.
But that's just it, though. They already have Harry Potter. They don't need Captain Marvel. They don't need a manufactured Poochie-like superhero to idolize as their hero. It's like respect has to be earned. You can't just manufacture it and make people like something. You have to earn their likes. That's what these companies don't get.
No, but unfortunately they get initial success and then it wanes off. Look at Harry Potter. The last film, right, made lots of money. But as the critics said, if this wasn't the last Harry Potter film, this would have made £10. Nobody was happy with this film.
I only saw like the first two or three of those. I realized that I was just the wrong age for it. So I mean, they're perfectly fine films. I'm not gonna dismiss anybody that likes them.
No, I'm saying
I get why people like them. Had Harry Potter come out like when I was say 4 or 5, I probably would have liked it a lot more.
Yeah. Plus, it had no competition. It
really didn't. It really didn't have any competition.
That was the same with the original Superman movies. It had no competition.
Right. Superhero movies were very different at the time. They superheroes just weren't made. I mean, and then even after that's why it's a miracle that the first Richard Donner Superman movie was successful as it was, because even though there's humor in the movie, it's not like all the movies that we saw in the 90s where everything that had anything to do with comic books had to be played up for camp. You know what I mean? Like everything had to be kind of corny and campy. And
Like the Flash.
Superman is played by fantastic actors, and they're playing it straight. And that movie
Yeah.
works. It's faithful to the comics, and
It rewrote the superhero model, which Marvel failed to live up to until Iron Man. But it was Spider-Man that made the idea that we could do Iron Man. We can't do Spider-Man, but we could do his contemporary replacement. Remember, Iron Man was a B grade. Was that they'd sold all their?
I didn't think it was going to be good. I honestly did not think Iron Man was going to be good, and I went on a whim with some friends of mine from work.
Yeah,
and we were completely blown away by that movie.
We
did not expect it to be that good. It almost didn't deserve to be that good.
Yeah, because they had they didn't really market it well. They had no confidence.
Well, I mean, just the fact that I'm like, wait, you're going to have who playing what now? Robert Downey Jr. is Iron Man. Ooh, that's not going to be good. And it came out the same year as The Dark Knight. Ooh, that's a terrible idea.
But they fortunately had enough gap between them to get that separation.
Right, because I don't think you and I or anybody thought that superhero movies were ever going to be taken seriously again before The Dark Knight.
No.
I really don't, because I mean, Batman Begins, I saw that one, and I thought that was a fine movie, but The Dark Knight was really the one that elevated it to like, okay, this can be a serious movie, and people will actually be entertained by it.
Yeah, because
we didn't know it was going to become the norm in the cinema place, but hey, that's where we're at.
Yeah, but the thing is, it was the success. It was everybody shits on Spider-Man 3, yet it's financially successful. And more so than Spider-Man 1. Now we're talking about the Tobey Maguire's.
Right. Well, 3 was financially successful because the first 2 had a large enough following that people were. It's kind of like we were. We were all excited when The Last Jedi was going to come out until after we saw it. You know.
But the Garfield trilogy killed Spider-Man as a series, but it actually increased the sales of the original trilogy. The Tobey Maguire DVD sales skyrocketed after Garfield, the Garfield 4 was cancelled.
What he said, The Dark Knight didn't even release in China. That domestic number saved that movie. Wow. Yeah. So that was all here. Wow.
Yeah. China was off Spider.
I'm actually kind of surprised. I would have thought that one would have done well in China.
No, they didn't want it. They thought it was going to be garbage, like a lot of people did. Don't forget, they pre-screen these movies. They go to Hong Kong, they watch it. They watch it in the studio. You know, they watch it in this little studio.
In fact, there's scenes that actually take place in Hong Kong. So I would have thought for sure that it would have done well over. Oh well, maybe DC's not that big over there. I don't know.
No, DC has a stink.
Okay,
DC has a stink. Chinese audiences are very fickle, very picky, very narrow in what they like.
So they prefer Marvel over DC in China.
That's the main takeaway, yeah. But
how the hell are they going to sell? How the hell are they going to sell Joker to China?
Well, that's why they're selling it as not. That's why they're not selling it as a comic book movie.
Okay. Okay. All right. Now it's starting to make sense. Yeah, because I was wondering. I'm like, why would you? Because it looks like an interesting movie, but it's like if you're going to divorce yourself that much from the comics, this is something I covered in my video. If you're going to divorce yourself that much from the comics, then don't call it Joker. Don't have him look like a Joker. Just call it the Clown. But no, see, they want that. They need those audiences to come in there, so they have to dangle it in front of somebody. You know what I mean?
But Mark Hamill has elevated in the last 2 years. The Joker, the villain, the Joker, is more popular than Batman at the moment because of Mark Hamill, the fandom of the animated series.
Even post Jared Leto.
Believe it or not, Jared Leto Joker is successful.
Well, that's depressing.
Yeah. It's but see,
so anyways, back to Genesis.
Genesis.
Yeah. So that basically we just explained the plot of Genesis. That's what it feels like watching Genesis. It goes off on so many tangents that you don't even know what the movie's about anymore. One of the things I did want to bring up though is yeah, okay, now you're a were a Game of Thrones fan, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Until 7. I mean, not 7.
One of my biggest complaints about Game of Thrones is that all of the actors and actresses in that movie that show up in other movies, they're so boring and lifeless. Now, maybe that boring and lifeless approach to acting works in that TV show format, but it doesn't work in these big blockbuster action movies.
The thing is, Emilia Clarke, you look at her expression on the Game of Thrones, and I'm not saying go watch Game of Thrones. You could just Google Emilia Clarke scenes.
Damn right, you're not going to tell me to watch Game of Thrones.
No, I'm
going to say absolutely not. I'm never watching that show. But yeah.
Yeah, I meant to the audience.
Oh, I hear you.
To the audience. Don't go watch Game of Thrones. I'm just saying, Google image of Emilia Clarke and then look at her and you go, wait a minute. Now I get, in Game of Thrones, they all got this white makeup on, they're in dimly lit, and they're on spectacular sets, and you don't really notice the actor. And of course, Peter Dinklage stands out. He's good in Game of Thrones and everything he's been in, except for...
Right. You know, he was good in stuff before Game of Thrones, so that I can understand. And also, Peter Dinklage is one of those ones that has transitioned into movies just fine. You know, he was all right in the X-Men movie, you know?
Yeah, but Emilia... But in... Which one was it where he's, the giant, in...
that was one of the
Infinity War.
Infinity War. That's it. Yeah.
Infinity War. He was
one of them. Our Avengers movies.
It was a bit of a disappointment because we never got to see really him act.
No,
he was a plot.
Yeah, he was there for fan service. Yeah,
fan service. Yeah, he was a
kind of like when they shoehorned him into the Destiny franchise to get people to buy the game, and his character was completely flat in that game. But he wasn't designed to be a guy that reads scripts to video game studios. That's not his wheelhouse, so it wasn't fair to him that's the outcome.
But everybody else in Game of Thrones is terrible. It's just that they're hidden by a large
everything that I've seen, and that was one of my argument points. I'm like, everything that I've seen Emilia Clarke in, which for me is 2 movies. I've seen her in Solo and I've seen her in Terminator Genesis. She was the absolute worst in Genesis. I think she was even worse than Jai Courtney, which I didn't even know that was possible because Jai Courtney has all of the charisma of a bowl of soup. You know,
Jai Courtney is Jai Courtney. That's
my God, he's so. But you know, what insulted me about it is, you know, I'd only ever seen Linda Hamilton as Sarah Connor. All right, and then I saw the TV show, which had the other girl that's in Game of Thrones, but she's Lena Headey. Okay, Lena Headey, I've seen in other things. All right, she had a life before Game of Thrones, and Lena Headey was an amazing Sarah Connor. I mean, absolutely amazing. Even though she was not trying to copy Linda Hamilton, she still had the same amount of charisma. Like, she got the character. Okay, and her performance did not bother me as Sarah Connor in the one bit. I absolutely bought her as Sarah Connor. So then you replace Linda Hamilton and Lena Headey with Emilia Clarke, and she's like as stiff as a plank of wood. Just absolutely no charisma whatsoever. I'm like, this is the mother of the future, and this is the best person you could find.
And you could replace it with Brie Larson, and you couldn't tell the difference.
No, you wouldn't. Yeah, you could replace her with ActorBot 3000, and you would tell no difference whatsoever. In fact, if they would have had her play, if they would have had her play a Terminator, I might have actually bought it. But no, she's actually supposed to be Sarah Connor. Then that's supposed to be the protagonist of your movie. So now you've replaced both of those fantastic actresses with this block of wood, and I'm supposed to feel emotions for her?
Yeah, and Emilia Clarke as a badass, you could go back and watch G.I. Jane and go, oh, now I could buy G.I. Jane. Now I could buy Bruce Willis's ex-wife as a badass because I've seen worse.
Woody, Sarah Connor Chronicles it definitely fell apart in the second season. I thought the first season was pretty good because they were able to do some interesting things with it, and then
it's supposed to be tough, not a
they
bad
they did a they did a timeline jump. Yeah, it is PG-13, but that's because it was not. There was no when that show came out. There was no like Netflix was still like not necessarily a streaming service. It was a place where you would rent movies
It
from, and
was
they'd
still
mail them
rental,
to you,
yeah.
and then you'd mail them back. Amazon Prime wasn't really a thing, so you didn't have this complicated streaming market. So if you wanted a TV show to be out there, you had to play ball with the networks. And if you're going to play ball with the networks, everything had to be very PG-13.
Because
And I
they want
agree. It doesn't really work with the Terminator, but considering with what they had to work with within those constraints of PG-13, I actually liked it quite a
now
bit. I liked it a lot more than I thought it would because they did a lot of interesting things with different characters.
now the problem with the Genesis wasn't the only problem with the Terminator franchise. There was the other one as well.
Oh yeah, no, and that goes back to Terminator Salvation. I did not see that one in theater either. I think I bought it when it came out just because I thought, well, it's Terminator. How bad can it be, right? I was excited about that one because you and I and a lot of people that us geeky fans, all we've ever wanted is we wanted a movie about the damn war that we saw in the opening of the first Terminator movie. We want to see people with ray guns zapping robots. And that's the movie that was supposed to be, and it was not that movie.
Remember before he did Avatar, he was promising us Terminator for the final.
Oh yeah, he does, and that's something that James Cameron does. That's why I get really irritated when
movies.
People on my channel, they're like, "Oh no, Dark Fate's going to be great because James Cameron's all over this." I'm like, "No, the fuck he isn't." All right, he's on there, and he's just basically loaning his name out. He's there in producer. He's probably funded it a little bit. Maybe he wrote the script. Maybe he didn't. All you know, he might have just came in and changed a couple of things around. You don't know how much involved he is actually with the movie. But the thing is, when he needs money for the Avatar movies, he's all over everything. He did the same thing with Genesis.
That's the thing. In Hollywood, if you want money for a movie, you have to make them the movie they want. And if you make their movie successful, they will fund your movie.
Right. That's the same thing. He didn't even want to do T2. He did T2 because he wanted money for Titanic.
Yeah. And then when he made Avatar with the profits from Titanic, but then when it came to making Avatar 2, the $1 billion that he made only covered Avatar. It wasn't a profitable film.
Nope. And honestly, I couldn't tell you 3 or 4 things about the movie. Honestly, I've seen it maybe once or twice.
It was Pocahontas in space.
It was Pocahontas in space. It absolutely was Pocahontas in space. It had a couple of kind of cool imagery, but there's another movie that its protagonist was a complete block of wood. What's that guy's name? I don't even remember his name.
I think it was Jai Courtney.
No, it's not Jai Courtney. He was actually in Terminator as well. He was in Salvation.
The others, yeah.
I have to look his name up now. It's bothering me. I'll find it in a second. Go ahead.
What sold Avatar was Sigourney Weaver.
She's barely in it.
And she's barely in it. And they de-aged. They went through all the hassle of de-aging Sigourney Weaver, offering us a bit of side boob and then that's it.
Side boob.
Boob.
Sam Worthington. Yeah. Sam Worthington. Remember when he was like, hot stuff for about 3 years? Yeah.
That's it.
He could replace Jai Courtney. Now he did actually play a robot in
he's
Salvation.
Too.
Yeah. Oh, is
he's
he?
Australian.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't aware of that. I wasn't aware he was Australian. So is he even more offensive to you then?
No. We deported him like we deported Mel Gibson.
Yeah, we can't deport Justin Bieber.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Salvation. I knew that movie was in trouble because Moon Bloodgood is in it, and it's not so much that her performance ruins the movie for me. It's just the fact that there are certain actors and actresses when they show up in a movie, the movie generally doesn't do well. So just their name in it alone is enough to tell you that they're doomed for failure. That's kind of the problem with Summer Glau. Summer Glau was in the Firefly series. Okay. So when she was in T2 Judgment Day, I'm like, oh, that's just going to get canceled.
Other people don't
it's got Summer Glau in it. And sure enough, it got canceled.
A lot of people don't understand why Firefly was cancelled. Joss Whedon made 3 critical mistakes. One, he never said when he pitched Firefly, he never told them that it was going to tie in with Buffy. Right? The second mistake he made, he blew his entire budget in 13 shows and could only talk them into one more because they were saying, we're not giving you $200 million for 13 episodes. We gave you $200 million for 22 episodes. You broke contract. Then Firefly only became popular because of fucking Big Bang Theory. If Big Bang Theory never brought it up, nobody would have even looked it up to find out what Firefly was. Nobody watched it when it came out.
You know how I found out about it? I actually, I was in a movie theater and I saw a trailer for Serenity. And I didn't know what Serenity was about. I just knew that it looked like a really cool looking science fiction movie. Yeah. So I went out and I saw it, and I had no idea at the time that it was attached.
That was 2 years after Firefly.
Right. I didn't know about Firefly. I didn't even know about the show. So when I was watching Serenity, I was scratching my head through the whole thing like, I don't get what's going on in this movie. I don't get it. And then I was told by people that you don't need that. They said, well, you don't need to see the show. Everything will make sense to you. I'm like, no, it doesn't. No. So then I went back and I watched the old Firefly shows. I rented it and I watched them. Like, okay, now I get those references. To tell people that they don't need to see Firefly before they see Serenity is a flat out lie.
Yeah.
And Serenity is like, basically it's like the big climax to the entire TV show, but they don't tell you that, you know, they marketed it all. They marketed that movie completely wrong.
Yeah. Firefly was budgeted for 3 seasons. And he blew through the entire budget in the 13 episodes.
Right. It was basically a compromise. It was mostly crowdfunded by loyal diehard. There's another fandom that's very loyal. The Brown Coats. Okay, it was basically Serenity's the Brown Coats put that together.
Yeah, but the thing is, Joss Whedon was banking on the Chinese market, and the Chinese market looked at it and said, "You're pandering to us. We're barely in it."
And also, it doesn't make the Chinese look good in that movie. They make the Chinese look like it's this overbearing, crippler of society. Where
how dare you tell the truth about us?
Yeah. You know, it's like basically you're telling us that we took over the world and you just have to play ball with us. You know, it's like, and the only thing they did clever with the Mandarin was using Mandarin to get around the censor committee, which I thought was extremely clever.
Yeah.
When they're swearing at each other, they're swearing in Mandarin, and they're definitely saying swear words, but I don't know what they are. I don't speak Mandarin. So.
Duck. Actually, they were clever. They were saying "duck you," not "fuck you."
Nice. Okay, so they're basically
really
they were doing the same thing they did with Battlestar Galactica when they came up with frack. Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. They were clever, but they blew through their budget really fast. And the thing is, I can't see it. I can't see where he spent the money. Unless it was cocaine and hookers.
It's a clever show. And once I finally saw the season, I thought, oh, yeah, that would have been really cool if they would have kept going with it. But yeah, it's just a series of unfortunate mistakes. I mean, a lot of people say, oh, well, you know, they didn't put that, you know, in the right time slot, la, 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 la. Nowadays, I'm thinking, seeing what's in the prime time slot now, if they would have put that TV show out right now, it would have done like gangbusters on any channel that they put it on.
They could have put it, if they had, Fox had made several mistakes with Firefly.
It was before its time, definitely, way before its time.
Yeah, but they basically gave money to somebody who is notorious for going over budget.
And they basically gave him money because Buffy. Okay.
And they didn't tell anybody it was a follow-on. You know, it was 200 years after Buffy that the vampires destroyed the world. You know, China came to the rescue, and
I didn't realize that they were related. I didn't realize they were in the same universe.
That's the thing. You know, the guy who's the Grand Leader, he's the vampire from Buffy. Nobody connected it.
Okay.
The vampires took over.
I did not connect that. Okay. Probably because I never watched Buffy. I just didn't look like that was something that I would enjoy at all.
The problem is science fiction barely gets by the producers, all right? Most of Hollywood hates science fiction.
Because very few science fiction series have ever been successful. The only two that I can think of that have been immensely successful is Star Trek: The Next Generation and The X-Files. Outside of that, everything else kind of peters off after the second or third season.
Yet, the only science fantasy series which has been successful and highly successful in live action is Star Wars, but in anime, most of the anime is science fantasy.
That's true.
And it's more successful than most of these Hollywood blockbusters. You made $1 billion. We made that last year. And the year before that. Oh, we made $1 billion for the last 23 years.
They're not going to make $1 billion on this next one. I can tell you that right now. Just everything I've heard about it, that there's so many red flags on episode 9.
Hello Kitty hasn't been on the air since 1979, and it's made $80 billion in merchandise.
Hello Kitty. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. If you don't know anything about the show, you at least know, you at least recognize the brand. It's a very recognizable brand.
Yeah. Yeah. And Pokemon. Pokemon is the most successful franchise in the world.
Yeah. My cousin is he's a huge fan of that. Yeah. He watches that all the time. Pokemon.
Yep. Pokemon has made more money from card games than all of the Terminator franchise.
But that's one thing where they screwed up too, and nobody's. Well, Jeff has kind of dipped into that a little bit too. But Star Wars was not just a marketable brand because of just the movies. Even though everybody universally loves the movie, the marketing, the stuff that you can make on those movies was fantastic. All right. They're pretty much the ones that invented the idea of selling a spaceship and then making an action figure small enough to put inside your vehicle. They pretty much invented that.
Which came from market for
right. Other companies adopted that, like G.I. Joe adopted that and took it a step further. But yeah, they came up with that idea instead of selling these large 12-inch Mego style dolls to have these 3 3/4-inch figures so that they could sell these figures and then also have them interact with the toys that you buy.
They made secondaries. They made the flip tops come up and there's your Han Solo inside already.
Now I knew Star Wars was in bad shape when even before The Force Awakens came out. I remember seeing the first Star Wars figure on the shelf that had the Disney logo on it. And even though it still says Hasbro, they took all of the articulation out of those figures. And I'm like, why? Why would you do that? You guys they have the articulation. I know Ethan Van Sciver wouldn't agree with me, but I actually appreciated the fact that they would bend at the knees and twist at the wrist and stuff like that. You could sit them on your desk and put them in like these really cool action poses, and they really went really far with the articulation on those. And then as soon as Disney took over, they knocked out the articulation so that they could make these things cheaper.
Yeah. But the thing is, when Kenner was the producer of the toys, they had the best toys. They won Toy of the Year.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, they were my favorite for a long, long time. Oh, man, I had so many Kenner toys growing up. Wow. They were not just Star Wars either. A lot of their other stuff as well. Yeah.
The problem was the single mother generation that followed in the 90s. They just bought the cheapest. Whatever was the cheapest at the time. And then that's how G.I. Joe built.
By then I was already older, so that probably wasn't really a thing anymore. But yeah, I mean, most of my Star Wars figures came from like the late 70s, mid to early 80s. My mom was really good at knowing which ones that I had and which ones I was looking for, and she knew them by name. So she was the one that always found them. I never got a duplicate from my mom ever. So she was into it. You know what I mean? Like she liked the Star Wars, and she liked the fact that I liked Star Wars. So
I had the Kenner X-Wing. It was metal, but after The Empire Strikes Back, the toys were coming out in plastic and they didn't last. They'd fall apart.
I don't think I ever had a metal X-Wing. No, I don't think I ever had any metal Star Wars toys. Now that I think about it,
not the X-Wing and the Millennium Falcon and the original Kenner were metal. They were die cast.
Oh wow, I didn't.
But after The Empire Strikes, but in the 80s and 90s. Right? Sorry, not in the 80s. They kind of stopped. They changed brand, and that's when they became plastic.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, I never had anything metal, that's for sure. I think the first action figure I had was Luke Skywalker in the pilot's outfit. And
Hasbro.
then C-3PO, yeah. Okay.
Hasbro. They're
Okay,
all
so that was
made in
all
China,
post Kenner.
not
Okay,
US.
gotcha.
That's Kenner made the mistake too. Look, everybody was looking for cheaper in the 90s. Just make it cheaper, make it cheaper. Lucas would say, "Oh, pay us big money, but you'll sell lots of toys," which they did. You look at Hasbro today; they sold more dinosaurs, generic dinosaurs, right? Not from Jurassic Park, just generic dinosaurs than they did Star Wars toys.
Did you see that picture I posted about all the Solo stuff at Walmart being marked down?
Yeah, that was yesterday.
That was yesterday. I took that picture.
Yeah, yeah.
They
And
had a play set, and I was so excited because I've been wanting like any kind of a play set to come out for like the last I don't know how many years, and
yeah,
they had a play set for Solo, and I thought, well, even if it's a crappy movie, if it's at least a cool play set where
you
I
can
can
set it up. Yeah,
display my figures, exactly,
yeah.
I'll get it. And I'm looking at it, and the fatal mistake that they made with that, for one, it's all cardboard. All right. Second of
Holy,
all, the top level, there's like actual like drawings of characters standing in front of computer terminals. I'm
I
like,
took
why would you do that? Why wouldn't you
my
just let the figures be the display? You
yeah,
know, it takes you out of that universe. It's like you know, at first glance you're thinking, oh well, this could be kind of cool, and then you're looking at it closer, like, oh wow. And that's the way I feel with pretty much every toy that's come out since The Last Jedi. Everything, it's like first glance you're thinking, well, that might be cool, and then you look at it closer, and you're like, oh wow, why did they do that? So many
yeah.
fatal mistakes. Why would you make a Millennium Falcon and make your main character have to lay down in the cockpit?
Because
What kind of toys are these? Who are these made for? You know what I mean?
they're made for that kid. They're made for that kid who breaks toys, who smashes things in.
I guess the kids don't appreciate I think it occurs to me that, you know, the reason that Toys R Us failed, it's not because of the internet or because of The Last Jedi or anything like that. It's because toys in general have sucked for like the past, I don't know, 2 or 3 years, because kids don't have any imagination anymore. They have instant gratification. Like you say, they
Wish
want
fulfillment.
wish fulfillment. That's exactly right. Like me, whenever I had my Star Wars figures and toys, I would have to, you know, I would reenact scenes from the movies. You know what I mean? So you know, it's like you wanted those play sets so that you could reenact your film in your head. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that was the whole draw of these toys. I don't want a play set with drawn on figures on it. Are you kidding me?
No,
It's
that's
insulting. You know, I'm thinking that's just the
that's the
one thing
sketch.
if they would have just not had that, I might have even just bought the cardboard. But the fact that they did that is the stupidest thing.
The thing is, it reminds me of the movie because it reminds me of that.
Yeah, it does.
It reminds me of that scene where they're in Dragon's place, right? And nobody's moving. It's a nightclub and nobody's moving. They're not even watching the pole dancer.
The scene is actually it's the where they go into the droid factory, and you know, L337's having her big, you know, revolt or whatever. You know, it's from there. But like I said, all the robots in the background, they literally painted them onto the playset. And I'm like, there was your big mistake right there. Because had you not done that, I could have literally taken that set. I could have put G.I. Joes in front of there. I could have put my Marvel figures.
But I'm just saying, what you're describing reminds me of most of the movie, where every scene,
paper cutouts. Everybody's just a paper cutout to represent. Oh yeah, remember when there's like, this is in outer space and there's aliens in there. Yeah.
Yeah, they're talking to the big space pirate, and she's got 18 guys, and they do nothing.
Yep. And they're still more interesting than anything that's going on in the story.
You look at say Lee Van Cleef and Clint Eastwood facing each other off, right?
Right.
They're guys in the background. They're fiddling their guns. They're eyeing each other off. They're actually there.
They have a purpose in the scene. Yeah.
They're bodyguards. Whereas the other one, it's just like they're all just standing back, chuckling behind their masks.
There has to be people in the scene, otherwise it might get boring, and pretty much comes off as boring anyway. So, and you know that's something else. In all of these Disney movies, how many times are they going to try to recreate that cantina scene?
every movie.
It's a beat that they have to recreate that cantina scene in every single. They didn't do that in The Empire Strikes Back. They did in Return of the Jedi, but they didn't do that in Empire Strikes Back. It wasn't necessary. It wasn't pertinent to the story.
Yeah, but the biggest failure I think for Star Wars is Lucas lying to the audience. I planned this out. That was the biggest lie.
Tom McDaniel, welcome to the chat, man. Tom McDaniel says, yeah, they weren't diversified. That's why Toys R Us was destined to fail. I'm glad you brought that up, because I was going somewhere and then we kind of got off on a tangent, which is what David and I normally do because we like to talk. But basically, I walked around Toys R Us right when I heard that they were going to go into liquidation. And I'm one of those guys that went to Toys R Us on a religious basis. And I would go there. I wouldn't always buy anything, but I at least go and see what, because you can get collectibles. And I love my NECAs, and they have like a lot of NECAs and stuff like that. I'm a huge collector of action figures. All right. I always have been. I probably always will be until I kick up dust. You know what I mean? So, but I was walking around Toys R Us and I was trying to think in terms of a parent that has kids. And even though I don't have kids, I understand kids. I've been around kids enough to know how they operate.
Yeah.
All of the toys in Toys R Us have been modified and nerfed to the point to where they're not even fun anymore. I mean, I blame a lot of that on all of on the hovercraft parents, the people that have deemed everything to not be safe. I mean, I remember a point in the 80s when the first thing I would go into when I walked into Toys R Us was I would go down the aisle where all the guns were. And that was my ammo store. And I'd say, like, what guns do I need? Oh, definitely need a rocket launcher. There's one over there. Oh, hey, there's a shotgun. That sawed-off shotgun looks pretty good.
Yeah.
None of that. None of that at all. In this was before liquidation. So all of their shelves were completely stocked. And of course, the Last Jedi toys piled to the ceiling. But I'm not saying it was just the Star Wars stuff that tanked Toys R Us. It's the entire store. Toys were not fun and have not been fun for a very long time. Kids have tablets. They've got cell phones. They've got video games.
No, here's the thing. There are successful toys. Beyblade is a bigger franchise than Terminator. A spinning top, I kid you not, makes billions of dollars. It's not the toys aren't fun
fidget
anymore.
spinners. Yeah, fidget spinners.
It's the toys in Toys R Us. It's the franchise toys that aren't fun anymore. They don't move.
That's mostly what I saw was like there's entire sections within Toys R Us that are dedicated to one franchise or another, and I'm looking at these toys and I'm like, my God in heaven! And I walked through there at least 3 or 4 times when the store was in liquidation, and I couldn't even find anything to buy on clearance.
Not
on clearance, man. Like there was nothing I wanted to touch, not even the Star Wars toys. I'm like, these toys suck.
And Toys R Us didn't carry Beyblades because Beyblade diversified its market. It said, okay, we've got many copyright holders for different countries, but what we're going to do is we're going to primarily sell it through the internet. Because Toys R Us wouldn't touch them, so they said, fine, we'll sell them through eBay. And eBay's laughing all the way to the bank because billions of dollars have got passed through their hands.
I mean, you couldn't find a squirt gun that shot anything longer than like 3 feet.
Yeah, go to eBay, buy one.
The Nerf guns, I'm like, they had bicycles, but when was the last time you saw kids outside playing? You know what I mean?
My son had a Nerf gun when he was 5, and by the time he was 7, he was done with it. So it couldn't even knock down the targets they come with.
And I'm glad
down a point blank range.
I'm glad you brought up the diversity dolls. The dolls that are dressed like Iron Man and Spider-Man, the female Spider-Man, like the basically it's a Barbie doll wearing a Spider-Man costume.
The Gwen
piles and piles and piles of those. Nobody was touching them. Nobody.
The Barbie Gwen Stacy outfit.
Oh my God, tons of that stuff, man.
Toys R Us had 1 million of them. Who buys 1 million Barbies?
That was how I found Jeff and the World Class Bullshitters. I'm like, somebody else has to notice this other than me. I'm like, why are these? Because even even when the Force Awakens came out, those toys were still selling. There were certain
Yeah.
figures that didn't, like, Constable
Yeah.
Zuvio, but there's always those in every Star Wars litter. I mean, even going back to Return of the Jedi, there were certain
Yeah, I
characters
had
that
one
just
of the
didn't sell.
duds. Yeah,
Right.
I had
There was
one of the
always a
duds.
dud in every single role.
Yeah.
Like Prune Face or something like that. There's always
Yeah.
one guy that nobody wanted to buy. Okay, so that's a healthy litter of Star Wars figures. There's always at least one that doesn't make the cut. Okay, so
Yeah.
that was fine. But then The Last Jedi comes out, and I'm seeing like the main characters sitting on the shelves collecting dust. And this is like 3 days after the movie launched. I'm like,
Whoops.
something ain't right. Something is no, this is really wrong here. First of all, they're too overpriced. Second of all, these toys are they suck. They're not even fun. Like, how can you make an entire movie with no interesting vehicles or characters in it?
Yeah, sorry about
The
that.
main heroes didn't even change their costumes from the first
No.
movie.
I think I tapped my headphone on the port and it just recycled.
Oh, sorry about that. But
No,
yeah,
it's my fault. I just hiccuped and I bumped my laptop and it almost went for a 6. But yeah, as Tom says in the chat, Baneblade and all those, they are awesome toys. Who thought you could turn a top into an awesome toy? That my son wasn't excited about toys until he saw Baneblade. Now he's into the
yeah. That's kind of
And
what
now-
drew me into the Transformers. I liked the whole idea of having a toy that had two purposes. Like you
he
had this
liked
awesome robot.
Transformers
You had this
until he saw
awesome robot
Bumblebee.
with guns, and then you could turn it into a truck, and then you had an awesome truck. You know what I mean? Or an airplane or whatever.
Yeah.
Some of them turned into multiple things. Those are even cooler.
He liked the original Transformers.
Absolutely. Those
they're
are
not the new
fantastic
ones.
toys. Yeah.
Yeah.
Force
Politics
politics characters never sell, but
Exactly.
Disney doesn't get that. No, yeah, and yeah, Disney owned probably most of the market share in the franchise stuff, like we're talking about. But even outside the franchise stuff, I walked in every aisle. I even went down and looked at the girl stuff. And my point is, the toy stores fail because the toys are so lame and safe and sanitary that there's absolutely no excitement to be had in any of those toys. Like, I would not want to buy any of those toys if I had a child, even
But
like
you know what's
that
keeping
age.
Disney afloat? You know what's keeping Disney afloat? The
I have
Disney
no idea.
the Disney Princess cartoon. It's selling a bucket load of toys. But they're not sold through Toys R Us, you see. They're sold only through the Disney outlets.
Disney stores.
Yeah.
Disneyland, the most expensive mall in the universe. Pay $150 to go in and go shop. Yeah.
That's it. That's what's keeping Disney afloat. Disney had closed.
Not for long, though. No. Not for long, because Galaxy's Edge is failing.
Yeah, like I said, their streaming plus service lost $1 billion. This was their first it's their first $1 billion loss. They've had losses before, but not that big. But see, Disney's much bigger than it used to be.
That's the problem with Disney. They're so big that they can't control themselves.
No,
they can't manage. They can't manage their own. They can't put enough attention into any one of their properties to make sure they succeed.
No, they've had to close 7 properties just to repair another because they can't transfer money from the resorts to Disneyland anymore. You know, in the old days, the corporates could raid each other and they'd call it a loan, but Trump's put a big stop to all that. You know,
toys are generic and watered down, and that's I'm glad you brought that up, because like in 1992 you could buy that's when I bought my first Super Soaker, and I was like way out of high school by this time. All right, but I bought one. All right, we just went to the toy store, like me and a friend of mine, and we bought one, and we just rode all over town shooting that thing everywhere. You could pump that thing up and get like distances of like 50 some feet, which for a squirt gun, that's insane.
It's huge. Yeah, it was and
now, because somebody got hurt somewhere, probably they've made it to where those water pressure operated squirt guns no longer exist.
You mean somebody's feelings got hurt?
Something, yeah. Somebody got their feelings hurt or something like that. So now it's like even though it says Super Soaker on the label, it's not a Super Soaker. You stick one end in the water, and then you suck the water in, and then you push it back out with the same handle. It has a trigger on it, but all it does is release the handle. They're not pressure-operated squirt guns anymore. The last really good Super Soaker, I think, was I actually read up on it because I wanted to know what happened to it, and I still had one The last Super Soaker I think came out in like 97 or 98. And after that they basically nerfed those things into the ground to where nobody would even want a squirt gun.
No. And the thing is, it's the same.
It was a water pistol. They had to nerf a water pistol. That's the world that we live in. And they want to know why the toys don't sell. When you have to nerf a water pistol, come on.
It's the nanny state mentality. And the thing is, they're not the ones buying the toys. They're just complaining because they have this glorious idea that
they want 3 or 4 minutes of fame.
Yeah.
They want to be noticed by their friends. Yeah.
Yes.
The one that
Look at what I did. I got them to stop selling toys. Oh, you think that's good? Last week I made a man.
You crippled the toy stores. Now kids that grow up nowadays will never know what toys were. They'll never know. All you got is the little bit of piddly shit that they sell at Walmart and Targets, and that's it.
That's right. But I think secretly down, and when I heard about who was funding some of these groups, now I get it. A lot of these protest groups actually market manipulation. Toys R Us goes bust. George Soros goes, yay, I predicted that, even though he actually funded the group who protested them and nerfed all the toys.
Right. And they come out and they say that kind of stuff, and then they're proud of it. Like I predicted that James Bond was going to fail. All right. And a lot of people, I did some James Bond videos on my channel, and like nobody watched them. I knew something was up today, David, because I was getting comments on a James Bond video that I made like 2 months ago. I'm like, why would I be getting comments on those now? And that's when I saw this article that we were talking about earlier. I'm like, oh no, they did. They did. At first I thought they were trolling me. I'm like, this gotta be a joke article, right?
Was it? I only discovered what, a month ago? Is it?
But the thing is, the difference between me and those people is I don't want to be right. I don't want to be right about this stuff. It's just I see these trends coming a mile away, and I can predict it before it happens because you see the pattern that they're going in. You see the car driving towards the semi, there's going to be a wreck. You know what I mean?
The thing is, there was a time, right, when we had a real media, and they would say, this is not right. This isn't good. Now, you get the 9 o'clock. You turn to the 9 o'clock news, and if it's even, except for Fox, you're always getting what's coming up. You have Matt Lauer, who's been thoroughly disgraced, but he was a shill. He was shilling for Disney because it's their corporate masters. That's what these.
I think people are wising up to it now, though. I mean, we're starting to see it with the fact that people aren't going to the theme parks, which is basically where they make most of their bread and butter.
Yeah, that's what
from the theme parks. And honestly, I don't think any of us predicted that Galaxy's Edge was ever going to be hurting for money, quote unquote.
No, they expected to be the first $1 billion theme park. Now, between 2017 and 2018, Disney grew by 5%, but Comcast grew 11%.
Oh, Woody brought up the ESRB. Hey, Woody, I'm going to warn you. Don't ever talk to me about video games. I was a GameStop manager for 7 years. I am a little overly passionate when it comes to video games, and I will
Mortal Kombat 11.
I will go on more hour-long tirades on video games. There's another train wreck that I saw in slow motion. All right, and people get mad at me when I say this, but I knew we were fucked when Xbox started selling the map packs for Halo 2. When I first saw that they were doing that, I'm like, that's not a good thing. And they're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, that's not a good thing. I'm like, you're selling an add-on content for another game. You're basically making it to where people have to buy this item and buy the item before it to make a complete set. This is not good.
Yeah.
And then look where we're at now. We've got DLC. We've got fucking loot boxes. We got microtransactions. And we've got legislation involved in multiple countries trying to regulate this shit. I saw this stuff coming a mile away, and GameStops are crippling now. And I saw that coming too. I'm like, this is going to be the end of us all. And people looked at me like I had a tinfoil hat on my head. Again, that's another wreck that I saw happening a mile away. I have a tendency to see when these things are going to happen, because I think, what is the worst case scenario that this could happen? This is and that's usually the direction that it goes in.
A store.
Because if you can, if a company, if a company has the ability to take candy from a baby, they're going to fucking do it.
Yeah.
And that's what we did. We enabled them to do that by people buying those Halo map packs. We opened the whole world. We opened Pandora's box for microtransactions, loot boxes, seasonal content, season passes, subscription fees, all of this shit. Pay to win content. Yeah. They were asking for that way back then. That was like 2005, I think, when those map packs came out. I knew that we were fucked. Yeah.
When I first got my first Steam account, I knew they were going to blow Games R Us out of the water, who were number one at the time. GameStop sort of survived, but never was the same, and is going downhill fast.
Yeah, now. GameStop peaked in 2008. That when I was in 2008, that's when all our stores were successful. I was making record numbers. I was profiting. I had bonuses. It all went downhill after that. But it's not all GameStop's fault, to be fair. Digital content kind of put them under their inability. GameStop's absolute and I was fired from GameStop, so I'm not afraid to talk trash about them whatsoever.
But their biggest mistake was not going digital.
Well, their inability to keep up with the times, and they had a very rare opportunity, and I watched them squander it, because where GameStop made all of its profit, like I want to say about 80% of its profit came from reselling used games. Okay. Yeah, when you go into GameStop and they give you 30 cents for your video game, and then they turn around and sell it for 55 or whatever, all right, depending on, that's all profit. 100% profit. So the more used that you sell in your store, the better your store is going to do. Okay.
But then Microsoft.
But what happened is every time a new game came out, like say, here's a perfect example. When the Sony Vita came out, okay, they have to get rid of something else in the store to allow shelf space for it. Because as you know, if you've gone into an EB Games or a GameStop, you know that there's very limited amount of shelf space. Most of those stores are in a strip mall. So they have to get rid of something old in order to put in the new. So when they went in to put out PSP Vita, they got rid of Game Boy Advance, which was a huge wasted opportunity. I watched them get rid of N64, another wasted opportunity. N64s were a perfect starter system for any kid of any age. Those things were built like Tonka trucks. You could throw those things off the side of a building and they'd still work perfectly. And their cartridges were relatively easy to take care of. They would work forever. I watched them get rid of those. We would literally clearance those things out, get rid of them, ship them out, they'd be gone. If they would have saved all of that merchandise and if they would have focused on the used versus selling the new stuff, they wouldn't be in the predicament that they're in right now.
Yeah, because
people want retro media. They want physical media because it's so hard to come by nowadays. But they don't want to go out and buy the new Call of Duty when they can download that shit digital. What they want to do is they want to go out and buy the Call of Duty that came out for PS2 or for regular Xbox. Those are the games that they want, the ones that they can't find anymore.
And if you look at the highest successful franchises, right, worldwide, half of them weren't in the US until after 2008 because of the trade wars with Japan. When the Japanese digital market was opening up, right, in 2008, but then Obama comes along and shuts it all down again. But in that period, there were lots of Games R Us could have made a fortune selling PS2 games, which to anime fans.
So they got this crazy idea, and thankfully they did this after I was no longer with the company. Is they got this crazy idea they'll partner up with ThinkGeek and they'll start selling all this merchandise. But what they didn't take into consideration is all of those things that you buy from ThinkGeek, you can get literally anywhere else. And also, when they ship this stuff to the stores, those video games can take a certain amount of damage in transit. Okay, these things from ThinkGeek, like these statues and things like that, they get damaged on the way to the stores. They've got stuff sitting on the shelves that look like somebody's been using it for a soccer ball all afternoon. Nobody's going to buy that.
And meanwhile, you have Amazon saying, "Why ship it to the store when you could ship it direct to the customer for the same price?"
Yeah, Tom, I was with GameStop when they bought EB Games, and the merger was supposed to help us. And I watched it. I watched it get run into the ground. I really did, and a lot of it was just a lot of really bad decisions that they made. They still focus. Even though all of their profit comes from used games, they still put so much store space to these new games. And if I was in charge of GameStop right now, the first thing I would do is eliminate that market. Nobody wants to buy new shit. Nobody goes into the stores. When was the last time you went and bought a physical game brand new from a store? You probably bought it digital. Because why do you want to wait? Why do you want to wait? Most people I know that want to play a game, they're not concerned about the physical copy that they take home. They're more concerned about getting online and leveling up as quick as possible so they can stay caught up with their friends. They don't want to go to one of these bullshit midnight launches. So most of the GameStops aren't even doing those anymore. New games are dead. It's all digital now.
That's right. You turn on your Xbox, you've got the Microsoft Store. You turn on your N64, you've got the Nintendo. You got the Nintendo screen, and you can select new material.
Yep. All of them have digital online stores now. So they need to get rid. If they would have just kept some of that used stuff that they had and moved
the PS2 stuff.
They transferred over and just focus strictly on retro stuff. Okay. And another thing that I would say introduce, you want to get an untapped market, get into fixing consoles. Think about it. Everybody has an Xbox or a PlayStation or a Nintendo that is broken on them, and nobody wants to have to call the hotline, or have to call the company and deal with somebody that's going to probably send you a box, and then you're going to send it back to the company, and then they're going to sell you some refurbished piece of shit. You'd probably be more apt to
refurbish yours.
Yeah, they'd probably be more apt to go into a store and say, okay, I'll give you $50 if you fix my console. They could make a fortune off of that.
Which is the sort of running joke in what's those guys' name? Red Letter Media.
Red Letter Media with the VCR repairman. Yeah, I was thinking of that. But there is, like, seriously, if you could,
there is that market.
There is a market, because I have a friend of mine that works in a cell phone repair shop, and they don't just do cell phones; they do consoles, they do laptops.
Remember the Commodore 64? Anybody remember that?
They get all kinds of customers because people want their shit fixed.
Yeah.
They don't have the technical know-how, and they don't want to have to call some idiot that they can barely understand on the phone to fix their stuff when they can just take it into a store and have it repaired for them. There's an untapped market they could capitalize on. They have the tools to do it.
Yeah.
They have refurbishment centers in Grapevine, Texas. All they got to do is take some of that technology, train their employees how to fix the stuff, open up a section of the back room, and give them the tools to fix their stuff. Every GameStop, I don't care, every GameStop I've ever been to has some kind of a back room, and they have enough space to where they could fix this stuff if they would just get rid of all this new bullshit that's not selling.
Now,
I warned you guys. I warned you guys.
Now, before that, it's the same mistake they made with the Commodore 64, right? And then the Atari, and then the Amiga. They had personal computers that were repairable, but they didn't want to repair them because they just wanted to sell a new one. And parents didn't want to spend $800 a year.
No, and the consoles have not gone down in prices. In fact, they've skyrocketed. They really, and the game prices, from what I understand, are already underpriced as it is. Okay. A lot of people claim that, oh, well, we have to, which is a bullshit theory. All right. That you have to,
they're making billions of dollars.
Have all these, like you have to have all these microtransactions to make money off the back end. Bullshit. They're
making billions of dollars on pre-sales. So don't tell me they're not making money when they've
and I agree. That's one of the things I hated. Tom McDaniel 71. I hated having to pester my customers as well. What I kind of try to do with my customers is, and this was something I enforced even from my staff all the way down, is I had a very no bullshit policy, and I kind of went outside the box with this. Basically, my theory was, you came into my store to buy a video game. Okay. You might have come into my store to buy the latest video game, but if the latest video game is a pile of shit and customers are returning it, don't be afraid to tell the customers this is a pile of shit and customers are returning it. But if you like this game, I have a better game over here that you might like better. And people will appreciate that. They'll appreciate your no bullshit policy. They'll appreciate your transparency, and they will come back. I had customers that drove out of their way to come to my store because they liked my no bullshit honesty. And then once you get that repertoire with the customer, they will be more apt to find out about, can I reserve this game when it comes out? Why, absolutely. That way I don't have to push these things on those people. I will tell them what's coming out. That was my approach, and it worked for me for a really long time.
I like the original Nintendo. When the Nintendo Cube came out, they would set them up, let people play them, and people would know, hey, it may cost a little more than an Xbox, but these are damn good games.
Right. They let the game sell the system.
But then what happened? The big corporate supermarkets took over, and all they did was put them on the shelf in a package, and just they didn't care which one sold.
Yeah, lock them up in a container, and you have to go find Martha with the keys, who's over in Housewares, to come open it up and sell you a copy. But you got to buy it back here. You can't take it up front.
No, and then you got to have it sealed, and then they tell you it's an electronic game. You can't return it.
Well, that was kind of something that we would get away with. I would pretty much let anybody return anything as long as they, had a valid reason and they weren't just, buying it and returning it just for the sake of, I want to rent a game today.
Yeah, I want to rent a game.
I only had a couple of those rare occasions, but usually I'll find if you be nice and let somebody return a game once in a while, they're more apt to come back and shop with you again. So, that was.
Pick and choose your customer. Who's who's a buyer.
Who's going to spend money. And I figured out real quick that my customers were moms with kids. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So this is a funny story I love to tell people, but you mentioned Grand Theft Auto earlier.
Yeah.
And Grand Theft Auto, there's always that one kid that tries to tell his mom, well, there's nothing wrong with this game, right? And damn well that game is the reason why the ESRB even exists. Okay. So, my transparency would extend to, even if I had to tell people things that they don't want to hear. I'm not going to tell people what they want to hear. I'm going to tell people what they need to hear. All right. Little Junior says, so the mom comes up and they ask me, all right, they say, is Grand Theft Auto 4, I think, when that came out. He says, is this really as bad as they say it is? And one of my employees jumped right up in front, and he's a really good salesman. He says, oh yeah, that game's great. He's like, you can buy a hooker and have sex with her and then kill her and get your money back. And this is this little 5-year-old standing right next to his mom, and then I'm standing there, and I just kind of shook my head, threw my hands up in the air, and walked out. I didn't say anything to my employee. And the mom's just standing there and she's looking at me, and then she looks at her son, and then she goes and puts the game back up on the shelf. I'm like, hey, I would rather not bullshit my customers than have them come back screaming and yell at me and lying to them and saying, oh yeah, your kid can play this game. There's nothing wrong with it. Come on. Oh, that was so funny when he said that.
Yeah, it's Carmageddon on steroids.
Really, because that was like when I first became a store manager, that was one of the situations I was involved in. I had some lady, I was like, this is rated M for mature, right? She's like, yeah, I know, whatever. Then she comes back 5 hours later. Well, you didn't tell me that they were like, shooting each other and using the F-bomb and all that kind of stuff. And then I flipped the game over. I'm like, right here on this little box, it says, strong sexual content, strong language, use of drugs and alcohol. She's like, well, I didn't know all that stuff was in there. So I said, okay, from now on, all my employees, when they buy this game, you tell them, just so you know, this is rated mature for sexual content, use of drugs and alcohol, la, 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 la. Unless it's some guy that looks like he's old enough to buy it, make sure that the moms know what the fuck they're buying their kids. That's all there is to it.
Yeah. Because
at no point did it ever cripple my profits or have any impact on my sales or any of that kind of stuff.
Because they're not going to buy it.
Right, because they would rather have somebody be honest with them than have somebody pushing something off on them. So I'm glad you brought that up, because that was, I hated pushing stuff to people too. But the manager, and I'm not trying to make apologies, but upper management puts so much strain on their employees to make sure that they push those numbers.
Because and
it got to a point to where they were literally threatening their jobs with, if you don't get this many, you're not going to be employed by the end of the week, and that's depressing.
Yeah, because you're working for what, 27,000, and they're working for 400,000 K. They're playing GTA. You're playing GTA. They're playing it on the streets of New York for real.
Yeah,
they're in Harlem buying those cheap hookers and doing blow and saying, oh, you better get those sales up. I'm only down to
actually the best customers for the Grand Theft Auto games were cops.
Yeah.
All the cops that shot to my store love those. And I asked one of them, I says, well, why cops? He says, because they get to do all the shit that they can't normally do in real life.
Yeah, it's wish fulfillment.
Wish fulfillment, yeah.
I'm a cop and I get to drive around town blasting drug dealers. Oh yeah.
Oh my god. Gamefly is still around, and then also you can see the games in the red box too, which is what I tell a lot of people. I'm like, well, go get it from the red box. I'm like, why pay money for a game that you can't return if you can just go get it from the red box and see if you like it or not? I mean, certain studios I'll trust. Like I'm a big fan of like the ID Software games like Doom and Quake and Wolfenstein, all those games. I know that studio will give me a product that I'll enjoy. I haven't been disappointed with anything that they've made yet. Yeah, those I'll trust. But anything else, especially anything, I won't buy anything from EA at all. I don't even want to get down that rabbit hole right now. But I used to trust Bethesda until recently. But yeah, they really let me down, man. Bethesda really did some backpedaling this past year. Wow.
They went woke, the bastards.
No, they asked for it. They really, and see, the thing is I like Bethesda, the publisher, not Bethesda, the studio, because their games are definitely broken.
But the thing that's really ruined video games is the corporatization. Everything's got to now be the maximum profit.
Right. They're answering to stockholders. And the problem when you have a publicly traded company like that is you get to a point, which is where they're at right now, where there's no more growth.
No,
once you own all the market share, once you own all of the market share, there's literally no more growth.
GTA, they Rockstar, their only growth is to release a new game because after 2 years after the first game released, everybody's played it.
Well, yeah. How long have they been milking Grand Theft Auto 5? When did that one come out? Like what, 2009, something like that?
But they've been milking it with content, add content.
Yeah, this whole content thing. Yeah, I'm done with EA as well. I think I was done with EA before most people were because
Battlefield was the biggest.
For me, it was actually the sports game. I used to play the hockey games, and I used to like with the hockey games. I used to like the 2K series, National Hockey League, and I used to like the 2K series. And then I think it was like 2007, EA had a game, and the 2K7 was an inferior product, and the EA game was better. And then eventually, EA found some way to weasel their way into to owning that franchise, and then 2K stopped making hockey games. So then EA started making hockey games, and there's never any difference between one year to the next. They don't ever add anything new. It's always the same mechanics. They might pretend like they add a little bit of extra control or a little extra stick manipulation here and there, but mostly what you're paying for is changed rosters. And it's baffling to me because there's something where they want you to buy a season pass, but that game only has a shelf life of 1 year, because usually the following fall they're going to put out a brand new game anyway. So it's going to be obsolete. You'll basically have paid for 8 months worth of content. You paid for a year's worth of content, but you're realistically only going to get 8 months out of it. The 4 months you're basically just throwing into the stratosphere. So I just quit buying their stuff altogether. The loot boxes on the Star Wars Battlefront 2 was probably the final straw, but the first straw for me was just how bad they botched up Battlefront from the get-go. Star Wars Battlefront was probably, Star Wars Battlefront 2, the original Star Wars Battlefront 2, the one that was made by Pandemic Studios and released by LucasArts, which at one point was my absolute favorite video game company. That game was fucking phenomenal. I never had so much fun playing an online game in my entire life as I did playing Battlefront 2. You go on there, you pick a faction, you shoot enough bad guys, and you get good enough to where they give you Jedi powers, and then you become a Jedi and you just decimate everybody in seconds with your lightsaber. It was so
game over.
So gratifying. And I was really good online. I was so good online that I would get kicked out of some servers because they thought I was cheating. I wasn't. I was just having the time of my life. I just played the shit out of it and I got good at it. All right. I got good. Okay. So when they closed down, that was depressing, but EA bought Pandemic Studios. They were going to make Battlefront, and they were going to have who is it that did it again? Dice was going to do Battlefront. And I thought, okay, well that fits because basically the Battlefront games were kind of based on the Battlefield engine in the first place anyways. The whole idea of being dropped into a battlefield and working for control points, which was the original point of the game.
And
So I was
Solo, the original.
It was the right choice. It was the right choice to have that Dice make that game. But what they made was just a shell of absolutely nothing. It's like going to Galaxy's Edge. It's like from the outside it looks like Star Wars, but then you get inside and you realize, oh, there ain't nothing here but a gift shop and a couple of walls. You know what I mean? It
and
was
a couple of stormtroopers telling you move along.
I can't believe how bad they botched Battlefield. All they had to do was just remake the last game. They didn't even have to put any effort into it, man. They just had to remake that fucking game with good graphics and it would have actually worked. But no, I got that game and their server lobby menu was the worst, most awkward thing I've ever seen in my entire life. Like you get into this giant lobby and you wait for like a good 20-30 minutes before you could even get into a game. And you get into a game and it might be 15 minutes long. And most of the time, every shot kills you. I'm like, I can't believe this is what they came up with. And there was like, maybe when you first got the game, there's like maybe 5 or 6 maps. And I'm like, they charged $60 for this? The last one had conquest mode. It had a campaign. My God, dude, it's so lazy. So then they're like, okay, we're going to make it right this time with Battlefield 2. Okay, I don't believe you. I'm not going to buy it. And then it came out and it was a disaster. I'm like, yep, saw that one coming.
Now, they did that with Elder Scrolls too. They had a successful game. They made it subscription. They didn't have enough content. And then when you went to, and most of it was and most of the time you're trying to find a party because there weren't enough players. They banked on being big.
When you base your game around online only multiplayer, okay, which honestly I knew that the first Battlefront only had multiplayer, and at the time I was okay with that because that was where I spent most of the time. But if you're Battlefront 2 was online. Yeah, I spent most of it playing online. Just the idea of doing my Star Wars thing and moving around. Now the game looked absolutely beautiful, but you realize once you're running around that it's only basically it's imagery. It's like basically going onto a movie set. It looks cool until you actually play around it and you realize how shallow it is. It's like miles wide and only an inch deep. You know what I mean? That's basically the way Battlefront is. Same with the second one. Gorgeous graphics, absolutely gorgeous. Terrible fucking game.
Here's a big mistake that they made that most people don't realize. They tied it to the original script for Solo battle. You know, the battle scene. They tied it to that.
Yeah, they had to have some kind of tie-in because the thing is I kind of understood, not that I was making excuses for EA, but I understood that they wanted to get Battlefront out to tie in with The Force Awakens. They wanted to capitalize on that Star Wars nostalgia. So when Battlefront 2 came out, I thought, well, they're not going to make that mistake again.
They did.
They went in a completely different direction with it, though.
But it wasn't their fault.
Pay to win loot boxes. My God, what were you thinking?
It wasn't their fault. Disney wanted more for the franchise. They wanted regular monthly payments, and they gave them the script and the details for Solo, and never told them that OP went and changed it all. Yeah, so they had the original. So they had the whole battle tie-in at the front, which was only 2 minutes of the movie. So
I have a feeling that I think DICE is going to be EA's next casualty. I just do, because they totally botched Battlefield 5, I think was the last one that came out. They botched that one. They did the same shit that everybody else is doing. They started, snapping at the fans and, getting woke and going broke, and it bit them in the ass like these things always do. Okay, so they started getting that with the whole, trailer with the female and the cricket bat and the mechanical arm in World War II. And I'm like, what is going on? What is this alternate reality Twilight Zone bullshit that I'm looking at?
Twilight is exactly
my thing is I was already checked out when they announced that it was going to be a World War II game. I'm like, I'm so at this point in my life, fellas, everybody listening to this.
World War II doesn't mean anything.
I've fought more battles than my grandpa has in World War II at this point. All right. With every single video game that's coming out, I've been in Normandy millions of times. I've done the Russian front. I don't want to do any more World War II anything. I'm just tired of that whole universe. What I wanted them to do was basically make Bad Company 3. That's all they would have had to do to make me happy. And they blew that. They made Battlefield 5 instead. Because they wanted to compete with Call of Duty, who made Call of Duty World War II, which is another game that absolutely sucks.
I liked the first one, but that was it.
Oh man, World War II is just so obnoxiously bad. It's like I had heard some kind of good things about that game, even though that one has loot boxes as well. And I got it on sale, and I was so annoyed playing that game because the first Call of Duty game I'd ever played was back when it was started off as a World War II game. It was just called Call of Duty, and it was made for PC. That was a game that really put me in the middle of World War II, and I wasn't at that time burnt out on World War II games yet because I never played anything quite that lifelike. Okay, but Call of Duty World War II, the one that came out in 2017, I want to say it came out, is basically an exact remake of the first Call of Duty game, but not as fun and not as intricate.
The stage about.
And you're running around and you got some guy barking at you all the time, telling you to do everything. And I'm like, what the hell is this game? I hate it so much.
But it's the problem is they flood the market.
They do. Activision and EA are doing the same mistakes that Disney did with Star Wars. Is they're oversaturating the market and making it to where the demand is no longer there.
Yeah, because they don't understand. Star Wars is a long story. Science fantasy works as a long story.
Right.
My first book is why it's called book one is because it's a long story. I'm telling the story of an empire, not particular characters. Characters in the setting, yes, but it's the story of an empire. That's what Star Wars should have been, the story of the empire.
And that's a big mistake they made too, with at least with the prequels. Okay, this is something I bring up too.
The prequels,
the prequels had a couple years in between, but there was no other movie coming out in between them to throw people for a curve. You know what I mean? It's like you had episode 1, episode 2, and episode 3 with like 2 or 3 years in between. In the last couple of years, you had The Force Awakens, then you had Rogue One, then you had Last Jedi, and then you had Solo. It's all over the place. But the average normies that don't know Star Wars are so fucking confused. Why would they even want to bother at this point? Obviously they don't, because they're not even going to the amusement parks. So I can't be the only one that thinks that.
It's like I said, it made up until Disney bought it, it made billions of dollars. And since then it's only made hundreds of millions of dollars. Despite the huge money. Disney's spent $11 billion to make $4.5 billion. That makes good business sense, doesn't it?
Woody, I have to agree with you on this one. Even though I liked episode 1, The Phantom Menace, I went and I saw it a couple of times.
That's right.
I saw it
nothing but a story.
I saw it 9 times. I do have to agree that it does nothing for the overall narrative. It really doesn't. And that was my first introduction to prequels in general. And that's why when they announce prequels, I'm really not excited, because when you know how everybody's story ends up, there's no tension. It's gone. Like, you know how it's going to end.
You have everybody standing around in the Hobbit saying,
like, okay, let me ask you this. Did anybody think that anything was going to happen to Anakin Skywalker when he went up in the Naboo starfighter and started fighting the droid ships? Absolutely not. You know he's going to make it at least through the next 2 movies. No tension. None.
But it wasn't only that. It was the ridiculous way he survived.
Yeah. Yeah. It wasn't a good movie. I agree that it hasn't held well. I mean, if it wasn't for that Theed Palace fight, or that Theed Palace battle fight, honestly, the rest of the movie you can kind of throw it away. It kind of is what it is. I mean, it definitely hasn't aged well. I can admit that. At the time, I was just excited to have anything new that was Star Wars, because there was that long drought after Return of the Jedi, man, and all you had was the special editions to carry you through. So
they didn't respect the source material.
No.
They didn't add to the story. They retold the story with new characters. And even casual fans who hadn't seen Star Wars before, there was a 31% drop off.
I will tell you this though, Woody, if you can make yourself, if you can force yourself enough to read through the novelization of the Phantom Menace, it's way better than the movie, because in the Phantom Menace, it was written by Terry Brooks, and he writes some really good science fiction and fantasy.
Terry Brooks is
He does. If
Sorry.
the movie would have been anything like the book, it would have been a lot better, because basically my problem with the Phantom Menace, other than the obvious, is the fact that you had a small innocent child playing Anakin Skywalker. In the book, you actually see his dreams, and you see that he's conflicted even before he knows what he is. He's having visions of things that are about to become. He has visions of being in command of giant armies, being on the bridge of a spaceship. Had they put some of those scenes in the actual movie, we might be having a different conversation right now. That's what I'm saying. The book is way better. There's hardly any, like, Jar Jar Binks is so minor in the books that you almost forget that he's there half the time. Whereas in the movie, he's kind of this obnoxious slapstick that George Lucas thought was extremely funny and nobody else got it. Okay, so he came off as annoying.
I can't imagine George Lucas intentionally being racist, considering he's actually a big SJW in real life.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. Case in point, Red Tails.
Which how do you fuck up a story about black heroes?
How do you fuck up a story about the Tuskegee Airmen when you're George Lucas and you have like an unlimited amount of technology to tell that story?
Yeah. And actually,
he told the story as if it came out in like World War II. That's what he was trying to go for. Yeah. And the whole thing comes off as like being unbelievably racist. You know what I mean? It's like he didn't get it. He was trying so hard to pander that he forgot to add any depth to his characters at all whatsoever. I saw Red Tails. I'm like, oh wow, that really was bad. The Tuskegee Airmen was the better movie.
Yeah. But
he did that to impress his wife. That's why he did it. He did that. He probably did that to impress his wife. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think it was because he went to Oprah for money. And she said, "Make this movie for me, and I'll give you the money for the trilogy." And he failed.
He says, "Check out this book called T2 Infiltrator. It's the best Terminator 3 ever." My thing is, if you wanted to get me back in the seats to do another Terminator movie, tell me a story that doesn't involve Sarah Connor and Reese and John Connor. Tell me a story from one of the grunts in the trenches, all right? Somebody that we've never heard of. Just show me that fucking war with the ray guns and the robots. Yeah. That's all the fuck I want. That's all you need to do. Just show me that.
That's how it should be.
Why is it we can never get that movie? They'll dump so much in, and that was my other thing, is that was my first argument when they first started talking about T6, is I'm like, why do this when all you gotta do is just get the actors back from the Sarah Connor Chronicles and put that out on Netflix? You would save so much money and make so many fans happy.
Could you imagine if we could sit George Lucas in a room, show him Pokemon, and say, "George, this whooped your ass."
Yeah, dude, it really did whoop his ass. That whooped his ass, and the Matrix whooped his ass too. I don't think anybody ever saw that one coming. I know.
And then you say to George, all you have to do, one central character who is always there, and you have this huge cast which you enjoy and know how to handle, but you don't bring them back in every episode. You have mini episodes with this one with Mark Hamill. You have your Skywalker cycle, but he only interacts with these few characters once or twice.
I didn't read any of the Terminator books, but I did actually have some comic books back in the time.
Future War. Yes, that's it. I think I've got it.
You got the book, but yeah, I had the comic. I think it was Dark Horse had a whole Terminator series. Yes. It was actually pretty good. The artwork wasn't really great, but the stories were really interesting. And you know what? Those books had a whole different cast of characters. It was not about John Connor. It was not about Sarah Connor. It was about soldiers and robots, and they made it work. They did. They
They
made
did
it
that
work.
with Aliens too. They had the
I
they
agree.
did
Those comics were good. Yeah, if they would have made a movie now based on any one of those fucking comic books, we would be having a different discussion.
yeah, but I mean, if you sat down James Cameron and said, right, these are all these franchises whooped your ass. Pick one and put your characters, spread them out over 6 movies. There's your entire franchise. And for the next 20, 30 years, you'll be selling toys.
Now, this is something I want to ask you, because you actually are an author, which is what I
Yes.
wanted to be. I never actually ever had any books published. I was a journalist. I had articles published, but not full books. Okay. What I don't understand, okay, all these fucking movies that are coming out, all these SJW movies, they obviously can't write, but all of these things have been written so long ago. Why are they afraid to just take those stories and adapt those into screenplays? Why is it that they think they have to write their own thing when they obviously can't write? That's what I don't understand.
Because they don't know they can't write. And second,
Oh, God.
they don't want somebody else to be successful. They want to take my book after I've died, turn it into whatever they can, and claim it as their own, like they did with Philip K. Dick. Now, J.K. Rowling was a big SJW, so and I think she had something on somebody because authors weren't getting handed $1 billion franchise, $1 billion. You know what I mean?
And even though those movies are kind of charming in their own way, I don't think that anything that she came up with was wholly original. I mean, some of her stuff feels like it was borrowed from Escape from Witch Mountain.
Actually, she's got sued, and I reckon a vast majority of her money, why she's dropped from 3 point something billion down, is because she's been paying off all her lawsuits for plagiarism.
Yeah, I can see a lot of the stuff that she's ripped off over the years. I can't.
Even Muggles isn't original, and they handed her the script, and you look at the difference between, you look at when she's not, look at the stuff that she's written, that we know she's written, and you go back and look at her books, right? And then you hear snippets of rumors that she had help from Warner Brothers. So you can't make a book in 2 years and then have the movie script ready. I think they sent her the movie scripts.
I mean, is it that they're afraid of paying these authors for their stories? Is that what it comes down to? Because I'm thinking a Solo, a Star Wars story, and you probably read the Han Solo books. I've read the Han Solo books. They're fantastic.
They didn't want to pay Terry Brooks.
They did borrow some of the stuff from those books for the movie. They did borrow some of it. Yeah.
George Martin said he eventually had to settle for $15 million, right?
In fact, that's something that reminded me that the race that's in the beginning of Solo, a Star Wars story, where they're outrunning the stormtroopers, that race in the book was actually him and Dengar, and that started this whole thing with Dengar. There was a race, and Dengar got in a horrible accident, and Dengar was on a revenge mission to hunt down Solo, and that's what brought him all the way to. It ties him into Empire Strikes Back and everything. Why didn't they do that? That would have been so fucking cool, man. You could have gotten anybody to play Dengar, and everybody would have known who he was. Oh my God!
Pay an outsider.
Wasted opportunities, man. Damn.
Like what he said, there's a lot of rumors going around that Warner Brothers conspired with J.K. Rowling to get. I think J.K. Rowling didn't write Harry Potter. I honestly think that what she did was adapt a screenplay. And she held him over a barrel and blackmailed him for $1 billion. And then had to pay off lawsuits because she ripped off all these other writers.
It seems like
gets $1 billion.
These people that are writing. I mean, you look at all these movies. I mean, if you pull up IMDb right now, or not IMDb, I'm sorry. If you pull up Rotten Tomatoes right now and you look on the left-hand side where all the splats and the freshes are, there's more splats than freshes. Why are we at that point? And the number one reason that always comes up in every review is the bad script, the bad writing, the bad script.
The movies.
These people literally don't know that they can't write. And you got idiots like Alex Kurtzman from Star Trek. Every time he fails, he gets another job, like literally next week.
Because he's one of the special people.
And he can't write for shit. I mean, he can't write anything. Everything he's written is nonsense. Have you ever seen an episode of Sleepy Hollow? It's nonsensical. It makes your brain explode. It's like if you took Plan 9 from Outer Space and adapted it into a TV show, that is what Sleepy Hollow is. I watched maybe 1 or 2 episodes and I'm like, wow, this show does not even know what it wants to be, let alone what it's trying to be. And that's the guy that you give things like The Mummy and Star Trek. You give the entire Star Trek universe to that guy.
Yeah.
Why?
And look what happened.
Why? He can't even write. Why?
Now, Star Trek is technically multi-genre, okay? It's correct. Not hard science, okay? It is an adventure show.
Mystery show.
It's an action
procedural. Sometimes it's a procedural. Yeah.
Yeah. It is multi-genre. And as a multi-genre writer, I could tell you that there aren't many fans of multi-genre writing.
That's for
Kurtzman
sure.
has
they definitely hate science fiction. They definitely hate science fiction. All they want to know is how can I make money off of science fiction?
Yeah.
And what they don't realize is that you have to build a fan base first. You can't just tap into one and expect it to keep going. All these franchises that are getting ruined, they're basically failed heart transplants. Okay. Because it's like you're taking the heart out of one thing, trying to plug it into something else, and it's not taking.
Fantastic.
Like literally everything is a failed transplant. Now James Bond is the next one that's going to fail because once again we're pushing that ideology over everything else.
The scene before the plot. That's what I said. The main problem with Hollywood is look at Fantastic Beasts. It's 10 great scenes, but to make a movie you need at least 98 shorts, and the stories don't connect. And this is supposed to be J.K. Rowling, a billion-dollar writer.
But what did she make her money on? She made her money selling children's books that for some reason adults decided to read, which is some weird
were
thing.
Promoted they decided to read because they were promoted by Oprah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that explains it.
And another thing, and I think Woody probably heard this rumor too, most of her sales came from Borders. And that's what said Borders broke. Okay. I honestly think that there's something touch the nose went on because for 20 years, she was a manager at Amnesty International. I bet she had some Abu Ghraib films.
That's a cult. Amnesty. Yeah. That's a cult. Yeah.
Yeah. I've come across them before. And
you want to talk about cults? Alita's not a cult. Amnesty International, that is 100% a cult.
Yeah. I heard that JK had some Abu Ghraib films on some special visitors, shall we say, who went to the prison and performed acts that would make Goebbels' toes curl.
Jeez.
And she had the film. And that's where I think the Warner Brothers conspiracy. They said, we'll take your children's book, we'll make you famous and popular. And because don't forget, Maxwell, he was a Mossad agent who turned billionaire. Steve Jobs, he was a technical consultant for the CIA at Berkeley. That's most of us. Bill Gates, he was at least a genius who wrote some fantastic code which nobody could come up with anything better. So they had no choice but to hand in the keys to the kingdom, say, okay, we'll pay your $400 a year for an operating system because they couldn't come up with something better. So he at least was one of the few geniuses to come out of, but most of the people who come out of Berkeley weren't geniuses. They were handed the keys to the kingdom by the CIA, who was going around the world stealing technology.
What he said, James Cameron used to be a truck driver. I remember a moment in time when James Cameron used to write some pretty good action. He actually wrote the script for Rambo First Blood Part 2, which I love. All right.
Yeah, he was a part-time writer.
He wrote the script for Rambo First Blood Part 2. That was him. And then he also wrote Well, he directed Aliens, all right, which is
Yeah.
still my favorite in
So good.
that entire franchise. Aliens is an action movie set in outer space, set in an outer space
Science fiction
horror
horror.
genre, science
And
fiction
there,
horror, an action movie / science fiction horror. I don't know anybody that ever managed to blend all those together as well as before that movie. Now
no,
everything rips off of Aliens, but at the
and
time
failed.
that was a new thing.
Yeah.
Space Marines, they invented the fucking Space Marines, okay?
No, that he
Or,
did.
or was that 40K?
Warhammer.
Warhammer did it first?
Yeah,
Okay.
Warhammer did it first, but it wasn't copyrighted when Warhammer did it. Warhammer was a struggling franchise when it
That's
started.
another series that I've come into recently that I absolutely adore is the Warhammer universe. I
kid you not. When
I
I was
love that
working,
stuff.
when I was working, I could have bought Warhammer for £40,000, and I didn't because I thought it was failing.
Oh wow!
I could have bought Warhammer for £40,000. They were one pence for a share.
There's something that Hollywood hasn't touched. They've made a movie. They've made
Ultramarines.
some movies. Yeah, I have the Ultramarines movie on Blu-ray, but that's something.
That's a
just
fan
that over exaggerated world could be so cool with the budget, though, man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
But
this is just thinking of those big giant ships gives me goosebumps just thinking about it. You know, so
yeah.
You want to talk about science fiction, man. You know, it's like they keep putting all of their eggs in the wrong hats. You know what I mean? They don't put the money where it's supposed to go, and they just this shit never works. Instead of milking the Terminator, which that's what I don't understand. Why in the hell are they putting Terminator out in November, the most crowded fucking month of the year, and you're putting a franchise that is long past life support already. You're already insulting the fans, so you're already destined to fail, and you're launching it in November.
Because of Bond. Because of Bond. It comes down to jealousy. Bond is one of those franchises that everybody's jealous of. Everybody wanted the success of Bond. Because no matter how many Bond films they failed, they could always get another one, and in the long term, they always made money. Look at the DVD sales.
Terminator might have done better if it come out in July. Honestly, I don't see Terminator making any kind of money in November. I hate being like this. I get so many people fighting me on my channel about Terminator. It's so ridiculous. Everybody just keeps screaming Tim Miller and James Cameron is going to fix everything. It's not enough. All right, you need the combination of James Cameron's visual art style, his pacing, which is always wonderful in his movies. There's never any downtime. Okay, everything moves at a normal pace in all of his movies. Even his longest movies have good pacing. Okay, you need to have the Brad Fiedel soundtrack. They're not doing that. They're using Junkie XL, which I have mixed opinions about him. I've heard some of stuff by him that's decent, but for the most part, it's very forgettable. Okay,
Wonder Woman 2 has a working title now. Wonder Woman 1984. And Chris Pine is back.
Well, that's weird. Is he going to be in like flashbacks, or is he going to show up as a different character?
I'm
his son.
The same name. Yeah. No, they get no. They
I'm his grandson. Yeah.
They haven't said, but I think he's the Green Lantern. That's my guess.
I don't think DC's smart enough to pull off a reveal like that. I don't
think
they're smart. It would be neat if they did something like that, but I don't think they're smart enough to come up with a secret reveal like that. That's the other problem with these movies is they can't keep any secrets. It's like you've already like this article that we just read with the James Bond thing. It's like
they gave us the giggle.
You've already told us the big reveal. Like we already know about it, and everybody's already rolling their eyes. It's like you've already bombed your film just by letting this leak out into the media.
No,
you're setting yourself up for failure.
It was written by the scriptwriter.
Oh God, why did she do that, man? Why did she do? It's
Look
like
at how clever I am, everybody. I can get on James Bond to get away.
It's like we say. It's like you give these people an inch and they take 12 miles. They just because we saw the transition. Well, she's going to doctor some of the lines and she's going to edit, and then she's involved with. Now she's doing her own PR work.
Yeah.
Is she going to star as James Bond next? Is she going to take over for Daniel Craig once he gets pissed off and leaves?
No, he was already pissed off 2 movies ago, but
that's true. Although The only thing I am going to give Daniel Craig, I'm going to throw him one little bone. There was that long period of time when they were arguing over the rights, and then the only thing he could get was a video game. Like there was a long wait in between Quantum of Solace and Skyfall.
Because everybody wanted to carve up the profits from Bond franchise,
Yep.
you know?
Yeah, there was that big long. So he had to just basically just sit on not being able to make any movies. All best he could do was get into video games that weren't very good.
No, he was paid $1 million not to make movies because they didn't want to spoil the Bond.
Oh, poor him, huh?
Yeah, get paid to drink vodka martinis and sit on the beach in the Bahamas. Boo hoo!
He's still the worst James Bond. Yeah, I'd take George Lazenby over this guy.
And Lazenby wasn't bad on purpose. It was just the period it was in where they couldn't have where the cameras were huge and bulky. They couldn't do big action scenes. Sets were falling down on them. They were on a flight. They paid the writer £5,000. The movie was made for like £50,000, so it wasn't a big budget.
No, I've seen it once. I've seen Majesty's Secret Service once. I think it gets a bad rap. I don't think it's that bad of a movie, honestly.
No, considering the money they had to make it with and the technology.
If you sit Majesty's Secret Service next to, say, Tomorrow Never, or not, no, let's not say that one. Let's say the last one that Pierce Brosnan was in. You know which one I'm talking about. Why can't I think of the name?
The collapsing pyramid and the Drug Lord. And,
you sit Die Another Day next to the George Lazenby movie. I guarantee you'll think the George Lazenby movie is a masterpiece.
Yeah. Considering what Connery even had to work with.
I agree. Brosnan was the best. And also, Die Another Day was not Brosnan's fault. It was just an absolutely batshit crazy script.
Yeah,
terrible script, lousy villain, just everything. The writing was just awful on that movie.
Bond isn't a law enforcement agent. He doesn't go up against your drug lords. He's not the cocaine. He doesn't chase the cocaine king. He chases the guy who blackmails countries with nuclear weapons.
That was License to Kill. That was another one I didn't care for. License to Kill wasn't.
But the thing is,
great song, lousy movie.
The thing is, Bond did narrow its scope. It didn't want to be pure. They tried it with. They tried to make it a Cold War movie with Roger Moore, and it didn't work because the Cold War was almost over.
Yep, and they made Roger Moore too campy. It's amazing that Roger Moore went as far as he did because the first introduction was Live and Let Die, and I don't like that movie.
It killed his acting career.
Jeff Hicks might come after me for saying that, but I'm not a fan of that movie at all.
It killed his acting career. He became a UN ambassador after that.
Yeah. Live and Let Die was really, if you watch it, man, that movie has not held up well. Ooh, wow.
Nor Moonraker.
Moonraker is hilarious. Moonraker belongs on my channel. It belongs on my website. It's that bad. Yeah. I wondered for years why they never showed Moonraker on TV, and then when I finally watched it when I had the set, I'm like, oh wow, that really came out, didn't it? I'm like, what were they thinking?
What, the real sex on the real sex at the end, or the terrible sets that look like paintings?
The terrible sets, yeah, just everything. I'm like, oh yeah, well that Star Wars movie made a lot of money. Let's put that in and that's something to be learned. All right, every time you try to make James Bond something that it wasn't to begin with, that's when you have problems. That's been this whole problem with this Daniel Craig run, is they've been playing catch up with the Bourne series. They keep trying to make it gritty and realistic, and they take all the charm and the fun out of it.
Yeah, don't make your franchise somebody else's, even though I said that we should make James Cameron learn something from Pokemon. That's different. That's showing him how to make a long story into a long story, because he's taken a one-off movie and decided to turn it into a long story. Okay, that's anime. That's what anime does. They give you the first teaser, and if it's successful, they give you the long story.
Right, and then when Robert Rodriguez did it the right way, he was criticized for it. Me included. I'm one of the ones that criticized for it. But now that you've explained to me how anime operates, now I get why he did that. That makes sense to me now, because I'm a novice and I'm not really familiar with anime, so I didn't realize that everything is set up to be episodic like that. So
Yeah.
It's going to be the big kick in the balls if they don't do a sequel. But I think I'm optimistic that a sequel is going to be made because it has a very, very passionate fan base, man.
Yeah, and another thing about anime, which I don't think most people get, is that it's not meant to be. The science isn't meant to be something you can dissect and say, "Oh yeah, it's real life." It's meant to be fantastical science, you know.
Right.
Where
Everything's exaggerated. Yeah. I
yeah,
even get that just from being a fan of Warhammer. Everything's completely over exaggerated. That's what makes that
Warhammer
work.
is
Yeah.
Warhammer used to be a serious tabletop board game, and
Oh,
it
hey,
was
what's up, Fatal J? Thanks for joining me, man. Fatal J.
hey, Biddle.
If you guys haven't checked out his channel, check him out. He's awesome. He's really good. I've been watching your stuff lately, man. Keep up the good work.
Yeah, I'll pay you a visit, and hey, audience, I have a channel too.
Yeah, go ahead and plug your stuff, man. Why we got everybody here?
Yeah.
For those of you that don't know, David Applegate is an author, multi-generational. Go ahead, plug your stuff, man.
Hey, I'm an author of The Boyhood of Coyote, book 1 of The Empire of the Elves. It's the first book in my series. I started writing in 2016, and oh man, I could tell you that if you want to be a writer, you got to learn how to edit, because there are just so many bad editors out there who'll just take your money, proofread it, and just tell you that you made a few common mistakes. They don't know anything about hyphening. And there are so many grammar Nazis out there who give you bad reviews just because you didn't have a comma in the right place.
Is there a way that I know there's a way to do this where I can let you put up a screenshot of one of your books or something like that? How do I do that from the menu here?
I'll give you the link in the chat and you do it.
Okay, I'll do that.
Just hold on. I'll just get the link up. Oops. What? Ah, here it comes. Well, I got that circle, when you get that circle, I thought, oh no, Google's down. Not Google, Amazon's down.
Oh no.
No, it was just loading the graphics, It's just, oh. Yeah, I also have a YouTube channel, which I started as a writing channel, but I found that most of my audience were bloody grammar Nazis. Just wanted to, oh yes, yeah. So I did, after doing a few writing videos, I saw a couple of trailers and I looked for reviews of them, and I found the World Class Bullshitters. And this is when the World Class Bullshitters was like 200 or 300, there weren't even 1,000 at the time.
I found this whole Phantom Menace through the World Class Bullshitters, and I found his videos where he's talking about the toys, and because that's how I found it. I wasn't paying attention to any of this SJW anything. I just knew that something was wrong. I knew that the movie frustrated me. Like, I didn't exactly immediately hate it at first, but I knew it frustrated me. I knew something was wrong when I went, like, literally 2 days after the movie came out to Toys R Us, and all those toys were piled to the ceiling. I'm like, I haven't seen I mean, even the Phantom Menace toys sold better than this. The Last Jedi is the worst I've ever seen. Like, nobody was buying anything. And I'm like, something's got to be wrong.
Yeah, anime isn't.
Yeah, I agree, Woody. His toys videos were hilarious. I'm like, okay, so I'm not the only one that see this. I'm glad to know. And then I found him, and then it recommended Jeremy and Ethan Van Sciver and all these other people. And then I started following them too. And then I realized they were all intertwined and connected. So it's been so much fun ever since I discovered all of these people. It's kind of improved my life, where Star Wars once was. This hole has been filled with people that are just as frustrated with Star Wars as I am. So they filled that hole for me.
Anyway, what got me, so after making a few writing things, and I saw, that people out there also had the same, because most of the time when I looked up movies on YouTube, you'd either find a short, a review or a trailer. You wouldn't really find channels that and I admit, World Class Bullshitters didn't realize how successful they are, despite the fact they were suppressed. I think they didn't realize at the beginning why they weren't growing is because they weren't showing up in searches.
Oh, Fatal J said, Raiders, the episode 9 script leaked today, the so-called script.
I bet you it's not an accident.
Oh my God! Do I even want to know what's going?
I did this with
This
Game
is
of
my
Thrones.
problem. My problem with
It
episode
will
9
fail.
is okay. After I know there's some people that didn't like The Force Awakens. I actually kind of liked it. Okay, I didn't think it was terrible. All right, I was interested in the new characters at that point. My problem is that where the Last Jedi failed to where the Empire excelled. All right, Empire Strikes Back developed all those characters way more than the first movie did. First movie introduced them. Empire Strikes Back developed those characters, gave them all an arc, gave them a destiny, gave them a path that they were set off on. All right. The Last Jedi did not give anybody any path. It just did stuff, moved to the next scene, did more stuff, moved to the next scene.
And
then by the end of the movie, I didn't care about any of the characters anymore.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, you didn't care about it. Why the hell should I? No vested interest whatsoever.
Lucas could also learn from anime. Anime don't do prequels. Well, sometimes they have, but they usually do flashback episodes. Because they have telling a long story. Every couple of episodes, they'll have flashbacks so that you'd know the background of the characters without having to do a whole movie.
Oh, no. They're saying, okay, so Fatal J saying, you're probably going to do a video on this shirt. I can't wait to see it. The script has time travel. Well, of course it does. It's a J.J. Abrams thing. You have to do time travel. So they're going to time travel, and that's how they're going to fix all of the shit that Ruin Johnson ruined in the last movie.
Yeah.
Did we not see this one coming? Because we tried to think. I remember did I have this conversation with you? Somebody. I had this conversation with we have to think.
In the group chat. I was there.
How are they going to fix this? They're going to do time travel.
Yeah, you did. You did.
The same thing. God damn it. God damn it. This stuff is so predictable. Ah!
And also, I think we called it that Finn was going to be the ending hero.
Oh my God. Time travel again. Really? Why are we introducing that to Star Wars? Why are we doing time travel now?
Because I haven't fucked up it a bit.
Oh God, that's the laziest writing thing you could have possibly done. He always does time travel. You know, that's something that pisses me off about J.J. Abrams. He's good at setting one thing up, but
that's what made Lost so confusing. Is that
he gets lazy with it. A perfect example. Do you guys remember the TV show Fringe?
No.
Okay, he was producer on a TV show called Fringe. It was after Lost. All right, it was a science fiction TV show. And that dealt with it started dealing with alternate realities. But then it got to a point to where there was multiple alternate realities. And it got to a point to where there were so many alternate realities that you didn't know what was going on anymore. And I lost interest.
Lost.
Yeah, I lost. I didn't watch Lost, and I'm never going to. I don't want nothing to do with that. I heard enough about that show to make me stay far the hell away from it as I possibly can.
Yeah, it's Game of Thrones.
Basically. Oh yeah, no, I don't need that. I don't need any kind of Game of Thrones in my life for sure. I just do not need that.
Once you know the ending, you don't need to see the series because the ending ruins the entire series.
Luke is going to kill Palpatine for good. Well, he's fucking already dead because like Jeremy said, if he's not dead, then you made the whole point of Vader picking him up and throwing the guy to his death meaningless.
Yep,
that arc is completely meaningless. The purpose of Luke's destiny was not. We all thought he was going to defeat Darth Vader, but the big surprise was the redemption. Exactly, that was his journey. That was his purpose. Was
save his father.
To sacrifice himself for redemption. God damn Star Wars. Damn you. Why is it even as a little kid I could understand this? You know what I mean? And now it's like you're making me feel like I'm retarded. You know? Yeah. Like I'm mentally deficient. Like I don't get
That's what I liked about the extended universe.
Brain, you know?
You had X-Wing fight. You had the X-Wing series. Luke wasn't in it, but his friend was. We find out what happened to his friend after he left Tatooine. He joined the X-Wing force.
Oh my God.
And went on a raid. You know,
Fatal J, you're gonna make me have to do another whole damn video on this now. Jedis will not be Jedis anymore, but will be called Skywalkers.
Oh fuck.
I couldn't have said it any better. You said it just as it popped into my head. Oh fuck. Why? Skywalkers, really? Oh God. You can't see the face palm. The face palm is so strong, it's about to go through my face and out the back of my skull.
You know what we're going to do, don't you? I said, did you get the?
I picked the wrong week to stop sniffing glue. Damn it!
Did you get the group chat message?
Oh, hold on. Sorry, I got so wrapped up this conversation.
I'll send it. Okay, I'll send it in Facebook if you didn't get it.
Hang on.
Yeah, I sent it in Facebook.
Okay, I got it. Okay,
right.
So copy this and I'll put it up in so you guys can check this out. This is David's work. All right, I wanted to plug it while I got y'all here. So
okay, I'll tell you a bit about the story. It's about the Empire of the Elves. Duh, obviously. It actually starts in the past. It starts about, if you know anything about true history of the world, which most people don't, 10,000 years after the flood is about the time that Egypt rose to prominence. No, 5,600 years after the flood, Egypt rose to the prominence. The elves disappeared from the earth with the... I'm taking various legends here, but I'm using the elves of legend, not Tolkien, which is why a lot of people freaked out on me because they like the Tolkien elves. I don't. I don't like the angelic version of the elves. I like the dirty, gritty version of the elves. I like the haughty forest elves. I like the witty and mysterious.
Speaking of gritty elves, did you watch Bright when it was on Netflix?
Yeah, I was so disappointed. They were Tolkien elves.
Tolkien elves.
They were token elves, not Tolkien elves. They were token. Real elves are badasses, all right?
His YouTube channel. I'll get a link for his YouTube channel. Hang on one second, guys.
Yeah, because if I give you the link, it'll give you a link to my YouTube, you know, the part that I see, not the part you see. It'll just come up as, you know.
I had to change the link because the link that you sent me went overseas and it was too long for me to post in the chat. So I opened it up in a new tab and then I copied that so it went through on that. And
yeah, I hate Amazon because I'm in Australia. Amazon,
right? It's doing that Australia thing. I gotcha.
And my YouTube channel, yeah, he's going to pop that link up.
Also, now, guys, he does a Saturday show that I usually hang out and talk to him, and I give him a whole bunch of crap in the chat.
Yesterday, yeah,
kind of like what we're doing now. So, but it's a lot of fun. Yeah.
Yesterday we had a fellow author drop in, which was cool because
that must be cool. But yeah, you're doing the job that I originally wanted to do, and I didn't think that I was ever a good enough writer to actually, because I've never actually written a whole novel. I've written short stories and poems and mostly news stories. So I thought I could get paid because I love to write. I absolutely love writing more than anything else. So I followed the journalism field, and if I could go back in time right now and tell myself to stay the hell away from journalism, I would. It was the stupidest career I ever tried to pursue.
It doesn't teach you to write. It teaches you
it teaches you to lie is what it does. And it's even worse because none of anything that anybody practices in any facet is journalism that I was taught. Nobody reports news. They just write stories based on what they think is going on.
You get and half your journalists copy what's called the Reuters release. They don't even do the press releases anymore. They just go to Reuters and go, yeah, I can reword this.
But yeah, subscribe to David's channel, guys. He's got really interesting things to say. He's a very loyal member in the Fandom Menace, and I found him through this whole crazy world that we belong to. And where the Elite Army is really cool, the Fandom Menace is really cool too. So this is the counterculture that we're in, ladies and gentlemen. We're in the counterculture that SJW's created by invading our franchises and running us out. So we bonded together over our being chased out of things.
Yeah, well, Adam does the Lost Flicks. I try to find the flicks that will become Lost Flicks.
Right? Yeah. The ones that we're talking about right now are going to be future Lost Flicks. That's for damn sure. Because, like I said, I don't think Star Wars Episode 9 is going to completely fail, but I don't think it's going to make the kind of money that the last two did. That's for damn sure. A lot of people have just checked out. They've checked out. Normies have definitely checked out. Star Wars fans, Star Wars fans have checked out. They're really begging to get people to come back to this one. But
Yeah,
I'm actually
31%
surprised that
drop.
there isn't more of a marketing push for it for something that's coming out this year. We haven't seen anything other than one trailer.
By now, if it was a Marvel movie, we'd have 3 by now.
Right. This quote unquote leaked script is convenient. It's convenience marketing is what it is. Yeah.
It's
to try to drive excitement for it, but I have a feeling it's going to have, based on what Fatal J is telling me, it's going to have the opposite effect.
Yeah, and I forgot to talk more about my book. The Empire of the Elves is in the Pleiades. They have set themselves up a sophisticated, very high technology spacefaring empire. They have, and that's also upset people because apparently you can't make elves exist in the future. They have to die out. Why? Because Tolkien did. Tolkien's an asshole. Okay, he didn't like elves. He was a holy Roman Catholic who believed that elves were demons and had to disappear. Okay,
I was never a fan of Tolkien, man. Not like some people are. I just never got into it. Honestly, just fantasy in general just always was a big turnoff for me.
Mine are anime style elves, okay? And my elves are badasses. Now, when you first read it, you may think Coyote is the chosen one. No, he's not. He's a demonically possessed bastard, okay? You just got to read the subtext. He's a demonically possessed bastard. I have to give away the spoilers because most people don't get it. I don't know why. People don't like yes, he's a child and he's a child genius. Hey, but he's an elf. He's genetically engineered. You see what bastards genetically engineered kids turn into?
No, it's like you're always saying. It's the wish fulfillment too. It's like people. That's something I noticed that I really noticed it strong in the Charlie's Angels trailer for the new one that's coming out.
That's going to be one of your lost flicks, guaranteed.
It will. Yeah. Well, actually, I got something going on with Etep Wakulian's, a place to be reviews. I told him that I'm going to go see Terminator Dark Fate, and I'm only seeing it because I want to review it for my channel. Because I'm a big Terminator fan, and I'm not a fan of the Terminator franchise. I'm a fan of the first 2 movies. People have a hard time differentiating between the two. We talk about it all the time on our channels, but you have to understand that there are such things as fans of the franchise and then fans of the movies. I am fans of the movies because I know what makes them work. I'm not a fan of the franchise. I don't have brand loyalty. I have movie loyalty. That's why there's only one Jaws movie in my world. There's only one Predator movie in my world. There's only 2 Terminator movies. There's only 2 X-Men movies. Okay, the movies that I like. It's not the franchises that I'm married to. It's the movies.
You know what's weird? X-Men 3. X-Men 3 got a second release in China, don't you?
Last Stand.
Yeah, Last Stand.
It's called Dark Phoenix.
No, Last Stand. No. When Chinese relaxed the restrictions on foreign films, Last Stand was one of the first films in, and it actually got it over the line for Fox.
Wow.
$380 million.
That's why they wanted that Chinese money, because it's their last resort. Yeah.
Holy and God. That's why, and that got the. Can
you imagine if X3 was your introduction to the X-Men movie franchise? If that was the first one you'd ever seen,
then you'd
be like, "What the holy shit is this?" Jeez, that movie's a mess, man.
The whole franchise is a mess. There's no continuity.
Thanks, Tom. Take care. Thanks for stopping by, man.
Yeah, bye, Tom. There's no strict timeline. There's no strict personality for your characters. Some characters don't have personality, which is fine if they're one shots. But Wolverine has multiple personality disorder.
Oh my God! What he said, X3 was his first X-Men. I am so sorry, dude. Oh my God. So, I'm a fan of movies, all right? And I did for a long time. I'm a little burned out on it now, but I did like superhero movies. I did know a little bit about the X-Men going into it because I had friends of mine that were huge X-Men fans. They were huge into Wolverine. So I knew all about him and I knew what his character was and I kind of knew what to expect. But I did not expect to like the first X-Men movie. And I think what kind of carried it for me was I thought that movie had a really fantastic villain. And by fantastic villain, I mean that he
He's
had
clever,
so much
motive.
shit happen to him in his youth that you knew that he believed what he was doing was the right thing, which makes him a more dangerous villain than any James Bond movie that ever comes out. What's
Yep.
the James Bond movies? It's always the same motivation. I'm going to rule the world. I have a lot of money and I'm going to build a thing and I'm going to blow something up because I can. All right. Whereas Magneto, he's going to stop something because he doesn't want his past to be repeated. He's going to stop it by building a thing. And you know damn well that he's felt that way his entire life. And nothing you say is going to change his mind. That is a more compelling villain to me. You feel sorry for him. Yeah, you get his motivations.
That's it. You get his motivations because you could see it in the eyes of people today.
Right.
Not people who lived through the Second World War, but
that
people
line right in the beginning of the movie is a really good setup. He says, I've heard these arguments before.
Yeah, that's the thing. Socialism has always been around in society, and there's always
we're the future, not them. Yeah, so that scared me more than anything else that he said in the entire movie. Yeah,
that's socialism. Magneto is a socialist,
pretty much. Yeah, and so he's just basically what makes him work is he's doing the same thing that Xavier is doing, just from a different. He's approaching it from a different angle. He thinks Xavier is the one that's wrong. You know what I mean? So
he thinks that Xavier is wrong because he will spare the weak.
Right.
And he knew that the Nazis were a band of weaklings who got together.
Right.
There's nothing worse than a mob of weaklings. And you've Portland riot anybody? A band of weaklings beat up on because they grew up on the 80s culture of high school drama. Every high school drama, the jock's a bully.
But that's always been my biggest draw. The superhero movies that I like, it's usually the ones that have the best villains. And I'm thinking, and that's something where the Bond movies have always been kind of weak, is their villains are basically they're memes. You know what I mean? They're cartoonish. I mean, just saying Bond villain in itself is a joke.
It's a meme. Yeah,
it's a meme. But I think of movies like like Alfred Molina playing Doc Ock in Spider-Man 2. This guy was a brilliant scientist who became possessed by his own creation. I mean, he literally had no control over himself. He was a tragic villains to me are more dangerous than villains that are just cool or rich or have a lot of power or something like that.
Yeah.
And another villain that I like is I like mysterious villains. You look at Heath Ledger's Joker in The Dark Knight, you know less about him at the end of that movie than you did at the beginning of the movie.
Because everything you thought you knew was a facade.
And that makes him more scarier than anything. And that was the first time I'd ever seen that done. And that worked. That worked surprisingly well.
The Green Goblin.
Wow, they didn't waste any time giving him a backstory or a complicated explanation of where he came from. And I think it's funny that it's a running joke throughout the movie that he's constantly telling you his origin story, but it's all bullshit. It's a joke. It's played up for laughs,
Yeah. Now, the thing about superhero movies in general, or superheroes in general, they work better as short stories.
They do, and that's something else that's why this Bond franchise has been struggling so much. Is they're trying to chase trends rather than just make a good James Bond movie by doing what they've always done. They're constantly trying to chase trends. They're either trying to make it a Marvel movie. I mean, Skyfall is basically shot for shot a remake of The Dark Knight.
Yeah, that's a DC film.
And yet, it's still it's still trying to chase a superhero franchise. You know what I mean? So it's like it's doing, they're either trying to be the Bourne identity or they're trying to be Marvel. They're trying to be this, trying to be that. Home Alone, yeah.
It was Home Alone.
It was. Yeah, I mean, their villains. The villain was interesting in Skyfall. I liked him at least. Okay, so it had that going for it. You know what I mean?
It was the first time a Bond villain had a proper motive.
Right. But you think of the best villains that have come out over the years, Doc Ock, Ian McClellan's version of Magneto, and Honestly, even the Magneto that's played by what's his
Heath
name?
Ledger's Joker.
The one that's the younger Magneto in the X-Men movies. He's not too bad either, but not quite as compelling as Ian McKellen was. I thought he was a more interesting villain. Like I
Isn't
said,
he the guy who played? He was the guy who was in X-Men, was it? Not X-Men. Fantastic Four, wasn't he?
no, I don't think he was in that one. At least I don't think so. Why am I blanking out on names right now? It must be the
No, the
time
first
day
one,
it is.
yeah. But when it comes to villains, your best overall villain is always the true believer.
Right, the one that doesn't think that he's doing anything wrong. Those are the
Yeah.
those are the ones you got to watch out for. That's where most of the James Bond movies kind of fail. Is they always got that one moment where one of them starts monologuing, or they do something that's just batshit crazy, and at some point they just start breaking down. That's where
it wasn't. It wasn't Fantastic Four. It was Aliens.
Fassbender, that's it. Yeah.
Thank you, Woody.
I was literally in the process of looking it up while you said that. So yeah, Michael Fassbender wasn't too bad, but Michael Fassbender had the advantage of playing a character that had already been set up by a different actor.
Plus, he has charisma.
But yeah, so he was already set up. He's basically playing a younger version of a character that's been set up by another actor. That's why Solo didn't work, because Han Solo's already been set up by Harrison Ford. You don't go back and give him a backstory played by some other guy. It just doesn't work. Nobody liked Alden Ehrenreich or whatever the hell his name was. Nobody liked his take on the character. Yeah. Plus, you forgot that you literally killed him off 2 movies ago. So why give him a backstory now when we know he's wind up a deadbeat dad?
Oh, what's really weird? All these people who initially liked Solo and liked Pando in it, then when they heard Lando was coming, the real Lando was coming back, they dumped him like a heap steaming pile of shit.
I was excited about Donald Glover as playing Lando Calrissian until I saw him in the movie.
He's a piece of shit. He's not an actor.
No, he was doing a bad Billy D impression. He really was. A very bad one, a very boring, bland, bad Billy D. Williams impression. I think what they were trying to do with that movie is they were trying to test the waters to see if they can just totally reboot Star Wars with new actors. I think they want to see if they can get away with it.
Yeah. That's what I thought too.
Doesn't work. It doesn't work. Now, what might have made Solo work is if they would have kept it as a comedy, and instead of making it an origin story, which nobody needed or wanted, they would have just made an earlier story that happened before they met Luke, just a one-off heist movie or something like that.
That's what it was supposed to be.
Which one just had Han and Chewie on a random adventure, like one of the EU books. If they would have just made it a random Han and Chewie adventure, having them pull a caper or something, maybe Lando Calrissian could have been in it. But I don't want to see how Han Solo became Han Solo. It's not important. You demystify these heroes and you make them uninteresting.
There are heroes, as a writer, there are heroes who need a backstory. If they're a complex hero with tragedies and the events of their backstory make the story happen, right? Of mine, the origin story of Katie is he's born into wealth and is demonically possessed, okay? But you need a story for that because it doesn't make sense just those couple of lines, right?
I'll tell you what, man.
With Han Solo, a smuggler, you just walk up and say, "Hey, Han Solo, smuggler." That's all you need to know because you know what a smuggler is.
I had this argument with this guy on a horror podcast recently, and I got in a really long argument with him about Solo because I did review Solo and The Last Jedi on my website, and I was afraid to do those reviews, but I got to a point to where I got so passionate about those movies that I felt like they were bad enough that they belonged on my channel. Okay. And I gave both of them each like 1 cheese curd, right? Just because they were Star Wars. That's the only reason they even got a cheese curd. I do 1 out of 5 cheese curds. 1 is really bad. Okay. And I gave those a 1 star a piece just because, each one of them had like at least one tiny little thing that might have made it okay. But other than that, they're very forgettable movies. My argument for Solo, because everybody thought I was way too hard on Solo, I said, okay, you and I were just talking about Westerns, right? Clint Eastwood. Okay. Yep. spaghetti western trilogy, the
Oh,
Sergio
yeah.
Leone trilogy. Okay, now
But
picture Fistful of Dollars. You've seen Fistful of Dollars, you've seen A Few Dollars More, and you've seen The Good, Bad, and the Ugly. Now we're going to give you a prequel to tell you why Clint Eastwood why he smokes cigars, like cut off cigars,
yeah,
why he has a poncho, why he has a brace on his hand, and what his name is.
and the Mexican that he stole the gun off, and the
Right.
name of the and you
So
pick the Mexican he killed for the gun, you know,
so
and he
that character would
poncho.
have absolutely no mysticism whatsoever if you give me all of his background details. You basically demystified that character and you've taken all the mystery away from him and you've basically stripped him of any of his what makes him unique.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You basically said, oh, it's deconstructionism. Basically, we're going to
Yeah.
give you the motive behind the
That's
motive.
exactly what I said in my review. I said basically the Last Jedi was basically it's like deconstructed food. It's like you can go to one of these hipster restaurants and you can have some breadsticks and a jar of pizza sauce sitting on a cutting board. They can bring it out to you. They can call it pizza. Essentially, it has all the ingredients that make it pizza, but it's not assembled in a way to where it resembles pizza. It's not pizza. It's
But
deconstructed pizza. Deconstructed Star Wars doesn't work.
yeah, it does. It does in their mind because they can't write. They don't
Oh my god.
understand. Now, if you look at my
Why people
story,
feel like they have to defend this stuff, I'll just
I
never.
forget who I was talking to. I don't know if it was you I was talking to about my book. No, it was somebody else. Yep. As I said, I don't have an. It's not. It is an origin story, but it's not an origin story. It has a bit of an origin story of the Empire. That's why it does have an introduction. And they say, "Oh, introductions are so overblown." Yeah, but if I wrote the prequel, right, nobody would buy it because it's a boring history lesson. I boiled it down to its bare essentials to give you an understanding of why the story exists.
Mhm.
Okay,
And
that
also the most important thing of all is Han Solo is a supporting character. He's not the main guy.
no, if you
He
took away
really
the
isn't. He's not the main guy. So you can't have him be the
it's like
lead in the movie and just
no,
make him Luke Skywalker and expect it to work. It doesn't
but
fucking
Harrison
work.
Ford, yeah, but Harrison Ford wanted to kill off his character. Okay, he didn't like him, but it's the one that made him the most money.
I know. It basically gave him his career, but yeah, for whatever reason he didn't want to be a part of it. So I wasn't like I remember people were asking me like, "Well, what did you think of the death?" And I'm like, "I'm not surprised. I figured he was going to die in the movie. I did.
I, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
surprised he was in as much movie as he was before he died."
Harrison Ford, when he announced he was in the new movie, was a miserable man, and then all of a sudden he was happy.
But I
That
got
day,
to admit, man, that trailer when you saw them two in the Falcon, oh shit! Now I have to go see this. It got me. It was a successful trailer. It got me. It
yeah,
did, and that's why people. I had so many thumbs down, David's on my. I did a
yeah,
review
yeah, yeah, yeah.
for the
And
trailer. I
people,
had so many thumbs downs for my reaction, and I'm like, well, what do you expect me to think? I'm like, I've been duped too many times by this franchise. I've been conditioned for failure. Why would you
yeah.
expect me feeling different? And they're doing it with the trailer. They're playing the Leia theme.
And
Carrie
then
Fisher just died 2 years ago or 3 years ago, and you're playing the Leia theme in the fucking trailer. You're doing it again. You're roping
pulling the
and doping me.
heartstrings
You're using nostalgia to get me in so that you can switch it out with something else.
and the cackle,
Not fair.
and
And
they had
the
the
cackle
cackle.
was cringe level, man.
Yeah, that was. Oh my god! But what got me is when they did the first trailer, the first time they released the trailer, is they had nothing for 3 minutes, and then they had her do the flip, and I'm thinking something's
Yeah.
missing. Something's missing. What's going on? Where did she? Why is she here? They're not giving us a hawk.
Why is that spaceship flying so damn close to the ground? That's what the hell
That's
I want to
supposed to.
know.
Yeah,
Other than the fact that you just really like that scene from North by Northwest and you wanted to recreate it,
yeah,
it
but
doesn't make any
that's it.
sense in that universe to do that. And
Dual.
that's okay to do that because Lucas assembled his Star Wars movies by copying a lot of things from a lot of other movies, and I've picked a lot of those things up over the year from
Yeah,
King Arthur and the Sword and the Stone to the African Queen. I mean,
yeah.
those things have been borrowed from heavily in the Star Wars universe, and I'm fine with that. But when he borrowed those things, he was subtle. You know what I mean? Not just recreating the shot by shot, just because you liked it in a movie.
He used them as a beat, not as a scene.
Right. And also he used it as part of his story, so it was fine, because that's one thing I have to give Lucas credit for. I'm pissed at him for selling the franchise in the first place, but I have to give him credit for he always did prioritize story over everything else.
Like I said, he danced
even if it wasn't well written, he was committed to the story. You know,
he danced with the devil and lost. He has made billions of dollars, but he has hardly a cent to his name, and he didn't want to go into. He didn't want to go in with his ex-wife, who gets.
I think he was in retrospect, he was a better businessman than he was a director. You know what I mean? Because you know, my favorite's Empire Strikes Back. He didn't direct that one. You know, so he's a good world builder. He's good at producing these things and making them happen. He was good at managing Lucasfilm for a long time. Like, he made money when there was no movies coming out. Who else can claim that? You know what I mean? I don't know a lot of people that can. I
don't know where. Look at the money.
Look at how much shit was made within that franchise when there was no movies coming out. Look at how many games, how many books, everything. Just tons of merchandise went on years after those movies came out.
But he's going around telling everybody Jedi are these people, self-sacrificing people. And he killed 1 million innocents, mate.
Yeah.
He blew up a Death Star and it fell on a planet. He wiped out a civilization.
That insulted me too, seeing that just sitting there like that. I'm like, come on, are you kidding me? So this has just been sitting there. Like, how much time has lapsed between Return of the Jedi and now, and that's still just sitting there like that? Like, nobody, you know, like it's going to explode into 1 million pieces. Like, you literally see the nuclear circle coming out of the middle of it in fucking space. All right.
Yeah.
Which they added later. That wasn't in the original. They added that circular thing in the special edition, okay, to make sure that, you know, that thing's definitely fucking nuclear exploded, and then it's just going to show up on a goddamn planet.
Yeah, but you know what? First Order comes along. Let's go to the Army Navy store. Oh, look at all these Empire suits. We're going to be an Empire now. Yeah. And then they give us a backstory. Oh no, it's the secret contingency. They did that in the EU. So
how do you feel about Sith troopers?
I think it's somebody went to the Army Navy store and said, "Oh, you got any of the costumes left from the First Order? Oh, we got the blood red ones."
I have a better theory than that. It's actually even stupider than that. Here's what I think the Sith troopers come from. I think that Hasbro and Disney sat down and they said, look, we didn't make shit off of your last movie. You didn't make shit off of your last movie because you didn't change the fucking costumes. You had the same stormtroopers. You had the same people literally wearing the same outfit they wore in the last movie. They didn't have any reason to buy these new toys because they don't look any different than the last one. They just come in different packaging. You need to take one of these fucking stormtroopers and put a different color of paint on it so that it'll sell. I know, Sith troopers. Ta-da!
I thought there was no more Jedi Sith.
Woody, if you haven't seen, they basically is it Hot Toys that's released it? Hot Toys or Sideshow Collectibles has released the Sith Trooper.
Yeah,
the Sith Trooper. Yeah, go ahead.
I think they've got both. I think there's one with the Sith Trooper, which is the one that Jeff showed off the other day.
Yeah, they basically showed a toy, and it basically looks like one of the First Order stormtroopers in like black and crimson. He's kind of cool looking, but just the idea of Force sensitive stormtroopers is kind of.
And the other one has got the new Rey. The new Rey doll is with the other one. I think the collectibles guy has the Rey doll. The 40-centimeter Barbie.
Did they at least change her fucking outfit? Because I know they didn't in the trailer.
Nope.
Still wearing the same outfit.
Yep. It's just a 40-centimeter Barbie.
You know, Luke Skywalker had a different costume in every single movie, and I used to look forward to it every time. Now it's just, no, this is what they wear now. Just this outfit right here.
Yeah, but you know what?
They don't change clothes in these movies.
You know You know why originally they didn't change the costume that much? Because they were making a fortune selling the cosplay. And one thing cosplayers hate is to keep buying new costumes because they cost a fortune, and you have to get them custom fit.
I don't know about that. That seems a stretch to me. I think most
I'm in the anime community.
Cosplayers are willing to give you a variety, of different outfits.
No, but I mean, there are a variety of different outfits. Your typical cosplayer will have 12 costumes from 12 franchises.
Also,
right?
most people that cosplay is Luke Skywalker, don't they normally wear the Jedi costume because that's the coolest looking one? Yeah,
they use the original Jedi, or
you don't usually see him in the farm outfit. That's what I'm saying.
That's right. They use
Rey's never changed her costume. She's had the same costume since day one.
the desert Jedi.
The not quite Luke / Anakin costume, which is why I figured that's who that was. I'm like, oh well, she's even wearing the same outfit, so that has to be she has to be one of them, which she probably still will be. I don't know. I just problem is I don't care anymore. The time for me caring was about 1.5 movies ago, because I consider Solo half of a movie.
The thing that got me, and they did this with Spider-Man, is they made the trailer first. Solo, they made the trailer. They sold us on a heist during the war, right?
So it's like they do with the video games when they make the bull shots, and then they make the game based around whatever it is that they sold at the convention. Yeah. That makes sense to me. Yeah.
But the problem is they change when they fired Lord and Miller, they replaced the entire script and didn't tell EA. And that's why you've got battle scenes in Battleground 2 that don't fit any movie because they're the Solo battle scenes. But they can't use the name Solo because they don't have the bloody balls to admit they fucked up.
It's hard to be excited when there's no cool toys. They don't change their costumes. I mean, it just
Millennium Falcon, give Lucas credit. He came up with a cool chip in the Millennium Falcon. Then he beat it to death.
Even the prequels, man. Like, okay, Anakin's costume was pretty much the same from Attack of the Clones to Revenge of the Sith, but they still had a different action figure because in the third one, he had the mechanical arms, so he had the glove over his hand, and then he had the scar on his face and his hair was long. I thought he looked awesome. Yeah, those made some awesome action figures.
And they put Rey in it.
Yeah.
Of course she could fit in it. That's why they hired Daisy. Look, no offense, Daisy Ridley. She is actually good. She is actually an actress. She was given bad direction.
Right. Yeah. We can both unanimously agree that none of the actors are at fault for this horrible movie that they belong to. We are smart enough to know the difference between the two. All right. We mostly blame the writing and the direction. Yeah.
We know the direction originally was different because we've seen the publicity photos of
we're not the dudes that supposedly bullied
Anakin.
Kelly Marie Tran off of social media. We weren't those guys. Yeah.
We were the guys who said, "Hey, Jar Jar, we don't blame you."
Yeah. Yeah. I defended Jar Jar. Yeah, it wasn't his fault. He was just an unfortunate character created by somebody with no sense of humor.
Well, also, somebody who didn't realize you don't, that you don't sidekick a Jedi. Where did this whole sidekick come from? They were supposed to work alone. That's what they set up. They kept changing stuff all the time, and that's why you go, "Hey, Jar Jar, it's not your fault," and you say, "Lloyd, I understand you don't want to be an actor anymore. I understand that they ruined it for you, but it wasn't us. It wasn't us. It wasn't our fault. We would have said, hey, you were good in the first movie. That's it. First couple of minutes, that was fine. Everything was fine up until they put you in a starfighter."
Woody says every Star Wars feels like it was written in a room by 23 people. Yeah, 23 people that don't have one single original idea amongst all of them. Also, 23 people that have to be diverse. Okay, that have to be SJWs, and they're written in a team of people that also probably never watched a Star Wars movie or even understand how they work.
Remember, after Star Wars came out, George Lucas took all the credit, right? And Kurtzman sued him. And
Yeah.
that's why he had to hire his son, who can't write for shit.
Oh, his son is the worst. His son is the absolute really? I have no family. Han Solo. He wrote that. That was written and published and went into a movie. And I can't get it. I can't get a fucking job writing, and a guy like that can get a budget and be in $160 million movie and write that, and I can't get a job writing. Are you fucking kidding me?
No. Look, I've had people say they won't buy my book because I'm white.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's the other thing. Yeah, my dad and I were talking about that today too. It's like you can't, I says, congratulations, Dad. You and I belong. We're on the endangered species list. We are the fucking public enemy number one, just because we are male, white, and not gay.
Yeah. Now, somebody comes up, right? What's your name? Han. You don't have a last name.
I don't have a people.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, you don't have a last name. Look, pick one. Come back. Han leaves the thing. He's confused. He runs into somebody.
Or how about just not have that scene altogether? That would be even better. Just don't even do that scene. It's not important how he fucking got his name. All right.
No, I'm not saying how he got his name. I'm saying if I was in that situation and I had to write it, I'd have him walk away.
Yeah. For a joke. Yeah, it'd have been like a joke,
He tried to join the Empire.
Then the next scene, he's like, I'm Han Solo.
Yeah, I'm on my own. I need a name. I'm Han Solo. He just runs into somebody in a casino or whatever. He's down on his luck, and they say, look, you owe us money. You do this job or else. That's the heist movie setup.
Either that, or it could have had it to where if you want to be original, okay, like he's supposed to be the best pilot. That was what they kept pushing in the trailer, which just annoyed the shit out of me. I'm going to be the best pilot, the best there ever was, which sounds like something an SJW would say. Okay, I'm going to be a pilot, the best pilot ever. Okay, so how about he's flying a ship and he goes so low he almost hits the deck, and then somebody just keeps calling him Solo as kind of a joke.
Yeah, that works.
That would have worked, right? Yeah. See,
so low.
People, we're coming up with this shit on the fly, and we're not getting paid for this.
No, but I'm just saying, he's down on his luck, right? How he becomes a smuggler. He's down on his luck.
He's so low, he can't go any worse.
He's so low, he had to join the Empire, and everybody laughs.
There you go. Yeah,
he tried to get away from us. He sunk so low, he tried to join the Empire. And there's your origin story. He sunk so low, he tried to join the Empire. And that's
I'm going to bring this one to a close because my ass is starting to hurt in this chair. But I want to thank you so much for hanging out with me tonight, and so we can sit here and bitch about movies. I love having these conversations because they make me feel normal again. You know what I mean? It's refreshing. It really is.
The ideas in your head that you're thinking when you see these movies.
Right. I mean, do you just, if you're like me and you wake up every day and wonder what alternate reality you woke up into and wonder how you got there? That's just me every day. Every time I read one of these headlines, I'm like, what fucking planet did I wind up on? What Twilight Zone reality did I wake up into?
Oh man, I want to catch something quickly that I think Woody said earlier about anime. Yes, anime is not for everybody because it is a long story form, and Ghost in the Shell, that the live action is the curse of anime. You can't do anime live action because anime has a certain artistic style that you can get away with as a cartoon, but you can't do live action because your mind is telling you they're real people. When you see something ridiculous in a cartoon, your mind can accept it because they're not real people, that they're fantastic characters. When you see a real person doing something impossible, which is why a lot of movies involving magic don't work because people.
I'm kind of surprised that somebody hasn't tried to make because every time they do anime, they always do a movie. Why don't they just do like a live action TV show?
They tried that with Sailor Moon and it didn't work.
So because of Sailor Moon, everybody else suffers. Gotcha. That makes sense. I can see, you know, as much as that sucks, I can see that from a producer's point of view. I'm like, okay, so they did try
They're
it. Okay,
trapped. They trap themselves in a
because it's like everybody's looking for the new replacement for Game of Thrones, and that was definitely a long form, you know, tell all story. And if anime is following that same pattern, you think that would be golden for them to adapt one of those to a TV show, you know? So I don't know.
But the problem is they have to start all over, and unfortunately, they just it's and in Japan has like got so many people dependent on the anime industry that I think they purposely sabotage live action to keep that industry as it is.
Huh.
And they're going to write themselves into the ground because they are running out of franchises. Because once a franchise becomes so big and successful, they have half the studios working for them, and you can't launch a new franchise.
Meanwhile, in Hollywood, we're collectively killing every goddamn franchise there ever was. The last 2 years have been so amazingly difficult. It's hard for me to just even wrap my head around how much has been destroyed in so little time.
Yeah. Okay. Who makes the most movies in the world? Africa. Who makes the most profitable movies in the world? India. Who has the largest movie audience in the world? China.
China, yeah.
America is killing the golden goose. Hollywood is the golden goose. Unlike most businesses, it actually got past that 30-year hurdle. You know,
I'll tell you, man, the trend I'm seeing right now is I think theaters are going to be dead in a few years. I think they're just all going to close down.
Yeah, I think within a few years everybody's going to be Netflixing
and everything. And actually, I hate as much as I love going to the movies, man. I really appreciate the cinema for all it was. I don't want to go anymore either, because something else I've noticed. Remember when you and I used to go to movies, and okay, let's say you go see an action movie and then they show you a bunch of trailers for all the action movies that's coming out. Or you go see a cartoon and they show you all the other cartoons that come out this year. Now you see literally any movie and they show you every trailer for every single movie that's coming out all year long.
Well, what they also do sometimes is they show you every Disney movie. You ever been that? You go to see a Marvel movie and they show you every Disney movie coming up. So you got
my mom. I went to see with my mom and dad, and my mom had said something about that. We went to go see is when we went to go see The Force Awakens. She's like, "Why are we seeing so many cartoon trailers?" I said, "Well, that's just Disney owned Star Wars." And she's like, "Oh, I forgot."
Yeah, I heard that. Somebody went to see Star Wars and they said 8 trailers later.
Yeah, all cartoons. Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing, and I don't know why they show these trailers anyway. Because literally, you go on YouTube and watch any video, unless you're a premium member, you're going to see 2 or 3 of these trailers anyway. You've seen them all already. You see them drop and you watch them. Nobody cares about the trailers in the movie theaters anymore. They almost cease any relevance to even be.
And it all ties into R.I.P. James Bond and other franchises, because James Bond is the canary in the coal mine, because it's the oldest and used to be the most consistent franchise, and it started the trend long before Batman of recasting.
First it was Doctor Who, and now it's going to be James Bond. Now this is literally 50 years. A 50-year legacy is going to get destroyed in one movie. I know it.
Just because somebody was born with a vagina instead of a penis, and they want it. Yeah. And that's the problem.
Because somebody was triggered. That's what it comes down to. Somebody somewhere got triggered by something, so we have to destroy everything that we love. Yeah.
Yeah. Phoebe didn't get that pony. She didn't have a vagina. The only way she could be popular at school was to lift a skirt, and then all the boys wouldn't marry her. She got raped at the prom.
This has gotten dark.
But you know the SJW.
I know what you're getting at. Yeah, I get it, man. It is. It's a swarm. It's I can't wait for EBS's book. Man. I can't wait for his book to come out, because I know exactly what his book. I've figured out part of his book even before I've read it. The
But like I
the Swarm and the Blood Honey, that's the SJWs. He's writing his life
said,
story, man. Yeah.
there's 19, right? There's 19 Bond books out there that don't have a movie. But then,
Yeah.
and
now there's going to be 19 books out there that are never going to get a movie after this one bombs to the Stone Age.
And we'll leave it on that.
We're going to leave it on that, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. We're going to bring it down to a close. This is not going to be my last live stream, but I did want to plug a couple announcements, and then I'm going to let David plug his stuff some more too. I'm getting dangerously close to 300 subscriptions, and once I hit 300, I'd really love to do another live watch party, and I really want to watch a movie called Miami Connection with you guys, and I would love for you to join us. David, if you're around, I want you to be on the panel with me.
Yeah,
that movie is hysterically funny. It's definitely my favorite bad movie of all time. It's a movie that makes me happy. When I'm having a bad day, I put on Miami Connection, and then everything's right again. All right, it's that good. It's so bad, it's wonderful. So I want to do that once we hit that 300 mark. And
well, if you can
also, I'm part of a live stream called the Fan Cast, and it's cast spelled CASTE. I'll put a link in the chat here in a second.
I'm sometimes on it. I'm a regular.
Sometimes he's a regular on there, and we do this kind of stuff. Maybe not quite as long, but we do this every Friday night. And of course, David has his show on Saturday night. So please subscribe to his channel. Take it away, David. I'm going to dig up these links.
Okay. You'll dig up the links, put them in the description below. I'm the author of The Boyhood of Katie, book 1 of The Empire of the Elves. Book 2 is coming. I've been promising it now for over 6 months, but they're trying to find an editor and to actually afford an editor. It's not good. I get help where I can, and it's going to be out soon. I've had to change the title. I've had a couple of beta reads. So I've got the thumbs up. A lot of people say it's a better story. So there you go. You can actually, in books, that's one thing you do. You can't do it. When you write a writer, when you do a sequel, it has to be better than the first one.
I don't know about you, man, but I'm so afraid of SJWs coming in and destroying everything I love. I have a collection of old books that I hang on to as if they're like, what's the only thing left in humanity that's sacred to me,
I've had people say they didn't like my elves because they weren't Tolkien. They went off because I didn't have the right comma. They went off at my spelling and didn't realize I'm not an American. Of course I spell color with a Q. What's wrong with people? What is seriously wrong with society?
Those damn Yankees. God.
That's right.
Oh my God. So sorry I had to bring you guys together with such bad news. I'm probably going to do a video on this as well. I'm going to have to compose myself because otherwise it's just going to be another half hour of me just ranting like I did tonight. But so look forward to that. Make sure you subscribe to my channel. Blah, 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 blah.
Subscribe to my channel, buy my book, validate my poor lifestyle choices.
That's right. Make us feel better about ourselves. But yeah, I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight, especially my guest David for stopping by on this impromptu rant stream.
Thanks for having me, and
hopefully the first of many. Yes.
And I hope the next time when you're doing the James Bond franchise, go to jamesbond.com because there you'll probably actually find the articles written by Phoebe, and they'll give you all the material you have to need to validate everything we've said today.
Oh yeah,
because when you've got your script doctor who turns into the main script writer, and I'm going to call this now. I'm going to say that the black chick turns out to be the somewhat villain. This is not going to be. There's already yesterday.
So Rami Malek is the token villain, and then she's the actual secret villain.
Yeah. She's the secret villain. Yep.
Gotcha. She's the secret asshole, as they say in Red Letter Media.
Yeah. It's becoming Bond is becoming predictable. You've got the secret asshole who betrays Bond.
Yeah. That's unfortunate. But anyways, I'll catch you guys on the flip side. Thanks for joining us.
Yep. And see you all later.